should have been late today.
So with the permission of the President, shall we start, President?
Please do.
Okay.
One thing we would like to mention about
yes.
numerous people have joined.
Yes. So very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My request everybody to kindly mute yourself. This side Dr. Yogesh Srivastava, and we are very happy to share that we are organizing this first ever alternative fuel technology for vehicles virtual Expo and Conclave 2020 from 15th to 17th of October, and we call it AFT Virtual Expo and Conclave 2020, and which will cover the technologists, the resources which are used to run vehicles, as said by our Sanjeev Gupta. And apart from petrol and diesel like natural gas, solar, EVs, biodiesel, ethanol, etc. And we are very pleased also to share that Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India is the partnering ministry, and the Government of Rajasthan, Government of Chhattisgarh is the state partners for this initiative. Among the key speakers of this conclave, let me share it with you that Mr. Tarun Kapoorji, IAS Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Mr. Manoj Kumar Pingwa, IAS Principal Secretary. He would be joining later since he is busy in some meeting, I have been told. And he is also the Principal Secretary, Commerce and Industries, Government of Chhattisgarh. Mr. P. Arun Prasad, Managing Director, CSIDC. Mr. Shamlal Goyalji, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra. Mr. Jyoti Kalash, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary and Principal Resident Commissioner, Government of Nagaland. Mr. E.S. Ranganathan, Director Marketing, GAIL. Ambassador Mr. Manjeev Singh Puri, Senior Indian Diplomat and India's former Ambassador to Nepal, European Union, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the United Nations. Mr. Vivek Joshi, Executive Director, Natural Gas Society. Mr. Bishal Thapa, Managing Director, Saral Urja. Mr. Nikhil Moge, Partner, KPMG. Ms. Akansha Sharma, Head, Social Impact and Sustainability, Sterlite Technologies Limited. And last but not the least, Mr. Justin Lane, Business Analyst, InnoBat Auto. These are the people, those who are going to speak, and we are very happy to share it with you that numerous delegates are also attending this live conclave on the dedicated website for AFT Conclave. That is AFTEXPONDCONCLAVE.com. So number of people have joined over there also. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very good morning once again. And this note, now I would like to request Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, President, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to kindly give his presidential address. Over to President, PhD CCI.
Thank you, Dr. Yogesh. It's my privilege to welcome you all today. Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to welcome today our Chief Guest, Mr. Tarun Kapoor, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Mr. Arun Prasad, Managing Director, CSIDC, Government of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Vivek Joshi, Executive Director, Natural Gas Society. Mr. E.S. Ranganathan, Director, Marketing, GAIL. Mr. Manjeev Singh Puri, Senior Indian Diplomat and former Indian Ambassador to many countries. Mr. Shamlal Goyal, Additional Secretary, Government of Maharashtra. Mr. Jyoti Kalash, Additional Secretary, Government of Nagaland, and all the other esteemed panelists and participants. On behalf of PhD CCI and on my own, I express my heartfelt thanks for all of you to have kindly considered interacting with us and to inspire the industry in a trying time like this. Also, I would like to appreciate your invaluable contribution while representing the government or the industry in handling the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. As the President of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, PhD CCI, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome you all. Here, I would like to take a brief opportunity to introduce the PhD Chamber to you all. The PhD CCI, which was established in the year 1905, is a proactive national apex chamber working at the grassroots and policy level with national and international linkages. The chamber acts as a catalyst in the promotion of industry, trade, and entrepreneurship. PhD CCI, through its policy advocacy role, positively impacts the economic growth and development. PSDCCI is more than an organization of business community. It contributes significantly to the socio-economic development and capacity building in several fields. PSDCCI represents more than 150 trade and enterprise in the country. A large number of them are from our MSMEs, and we are proud to say that MSMEs contribute significantly to the growth story of India and the South, even South Asia at large. When it comes to trade, they are the strong pillars of global export and import ecosystem. For the economic rebound in India and the world at large, the operational rebound of MSMEs is going to be one of the decisive factors. Against this backdrop, under the aegis of its State Development Council and Chhattisgarh State Chapter, and in association with the Chhattisgarh State Industrial Development Corporation, CSIDC, Government of Chhattisgarh, PSDCCI is organizing this timely and important alternative fuel technology for vehicles Virtual Expo and Conclave 2020. In this difficult time, when our priorities are to keep India and the neighborhood safe from the severe challenges posed by COVID-19, the industry and individuals are determined to work in close tandem with all concerned and help the region successfully come out of the crisis phase. Let us all endure our resolve and support the collective mission to defeat COVID-19 and continue to be a part of this holistic economic rebound in India. Even when the emerging scenario is full of uncertainties, it is surely a matter of big satisfaction how people are helping each other, and the government and industry are playing their roles in mitigating risk and challenges together. Moving forward, we are trying our level best to keep India's inclusive growth momentum on. In the process, we are very much open to engage with the industry fraternity across the world to carry forward the mission for making peaceful and prosperous world. Alternative fuel technology is all about ensuring a cleaner alternative for mobility and for other energy needs. It broadly reflects the commitment for the Sustainable Development Goals or the global goals as mandated by the United Nations. India, as one of the fastest growing large economies in fact, has significant bearing with the adoption of a sustainable mode of transportation and environment protection. In the last few years, the government and industry in India have taken this matter very seriously in a bid to curb urban pollution and to attain sustainable mobility. AFT ensures a clean, green and cost-effective alternative to the other fuels and technology. There is a strong possibility of convergence of stakeholders for exploring the possibilities of AFT for favorable social and environmental impact and sustainable commercial uses. The electric vehicle market is anticipated to grow at a robust 43% plus during the forecast period of 2019 to 2030. India has the potential to become one of the largest electric vehicle markets in the world, with the government pushing for segment in order to curb pollution. India has one of the biggest fleet of natural gas vehicles already in the world. Most importantly, it holds the highest natural gas vehicle growth potential in the world, with over 220 cities planned for CNG development, a nationwide distribution pipeline. The government of India and state governments aim to bring 6 to 7 million electric and hybrid vehicles on the road by the end of 2020. In this regard, the initiatives taken by the government of Chhattisgarh are praiseworthy, and such best practices are worth replication by other states in the nation also. Also, the state of Chhattisgarh is surely leading from the front while promoting ethanol and other key components for ensuring sustainable activity. We stand with the causes that support the universal interest and serve humanity unswervingly. Here, we look forward to get inspiration from all of you to overcome the ongoing tough phase and come out stronger to make the region and the world more livable and suited for sustainable economic activities. I look forward to your remarkable views on the alternative fuel technology for sustainable mobility. I am sure that the deliberations here shall take us a long way in helping address the issues on alternative fuel technology. My sincere and warm welcome to all of you again, and I really do look forward to participating and listening to the discussions today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for your wonderful presidential address. And as you said, that this is the need of the hour, that India must look forward for such kind of technology. So with this note, I would like to now request our chief guest, Mr. Tarun Kapoor, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India, to kindly share his views. Over to Mr. Kapoor.
Good morning to all the participants, President of PhD Chamber, all the members, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank PhD Chamber for organizing this and choosing a topic which is so relevant as on today. India is gradually moving towards an economy which is based on clean energy, and we want to get all types of fuels into the system. Those fuels which are cleaner than what we are using now. We understand that the transition has to be gradual because there are so many alternatives which are available. And while we want to move from fossil fuels to the renewable sources of energy, the transition cannot be sudden. So therefore, moving from, say, the dirtier sources to still cleaner sources, and then still cleaner, and then finally going to renewables and absolutely clean, 100% clean sources, that's the path. So while moving on that path, if we look at the transport sector, then from the old times of steam engines to the petrol and diesel driven vehicles, and better efficiency coming in, and us moving to Euro 6. So there already has been a big transition, and now moving to alternate fuels and cleaner fuels, that's our path. Now in alternate fuels, CNG is something on which India is almost, you could say, becoming a leader in the world. The number of CNG vehicles in India is already quite substantial. And the plan is that at least in some of the major cities, we could reach a stage where diesel vehicles are eliminated beyond a point of time, and CNG comes in a big way. So first is that CNG should be available, and it should be affordable, and the vehicles, enough models, enough variety, and good efficiency vehicles should also be available. So right now, some of the CNG vehicles come with retrofitting, some come made from the factory. So there also some more efforts are required to ensure that vehicles in various segments, catering to private vehicles, taxis, all types are available. And then I'm quite sure that CNG would take over in a big way. So already we have this massive program of city gas distribution where PNGRB does the tenders to allocate these areas, and more than 53% of the geographical area is already awarded. The remaining would also get awarded subsequently, and infrastructure is fast coming up so that CNG is seamlessly available. More and more CNG outlets are coming up. So that's one. Then the next is ethanol. So ethanol is another big focus area. And while we are moving very fast on blending of petrol with ethanol, the target is to reach 20% by 2030. And currently we are at a little over 5%. By next year, we hope to take a big jump because next year ethanol production is likely to be higher. The constraint right now is production of ethanol. The oil marketing companies are fully geared up to blend at a higher percentage also. So currently what is being supplied is E10, and we are also looking forward to introducing E12 and E15 shortly. And motor vehicles also, they don't need much modification to go to E12 and E15. But then that psychological barrier has to be broken, and gradually we will have blended petrol all over the country and moving to a higher percentage. Then we also have to make available pure ethanol. So some vehicles may switch to pure ethanol, which has happened in several countries. And then several countries also have multi-fuel vehicles like Brazil. So gradually we have to move towards that. So on pure ethanol, there is a pilot project which is now to be implemented, and it's going to happen in Pune shortly. And thereafter, then we will take that forward. And on CNG, one more thing I'd like to mention is that there is another pilot which we are going to do in Delhi, which is HCNG. So getting a small percentage, 10% of hydrogen into CNG, which would improve not only the efficiency but also reduce emissions very drastically. So now these two, and then biodiesel. Now biodiesel is another area where a lot of material is available in India, but the price is a little higher. Maybe some amount of research and volumes would bring the price at a level where it would become affordable and freely available. Right now, some amount of blending is taking place, but it's very small. We have to move forward in that sector, and we have to move fast. Next area is compressed biogas. Now that is something on which we are really moving forward, and we give a lot of importance, because that's where the agriculture, the farmer of the country gets connected, and we have a huge source available within the country. So we have this scheme where called Satat, where there's a target to set up 5,000 compressed biogas plants, and if that happens, then a large quantity of biogas would be available. This biogas would also flow into the city gas distribution networks, which means it would come into the pipelines, and it would be available along with CNG, and therefore this distribution network would take care of the distribution part or the marketing part. So our the oil marketing companies, as well as those entities which are putting up the city distribution network, they have taken this responsibility on themselves, that whoever sets up the compressed biogas plant, he will have no problem regarding marketing. The product would be bought by them. There is a price which is declared every year, and LOIs are being given. 15-year LOI is available right now. So we invite investments in this sector, and there is a huge scope for business houses to come into this sector in a very big way. And then we have the electric vehicle. So on electric vehicle also, the oil marketing companies are available to facilitate. So we are looking forward to battery swapping coming up in the petrol stations, in our various retail outlets, and also electric charging to be put up in the retail outlets. So the oil marketing companies will move fast on this. So therefore, oil marketing companies are not against any of these alternate fuels coming in, even electric vehicles, and would be supporting all these technologies. They have a huge network. These companies are big. They have a lot of strength, so that strength can be used to promote alternate fuels. So we look forward to working closely with the industry on this, because the investments have to come from the industry. The business opportunity does exist, but then the industry has to catch on, and then we have to move forward. So my good wishes to PhD again, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Thank you very much for your.
I would just like to add a word.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You know, the way India is moving compared to some of the largest economies in the world, I think, sir, the government of India has really taken some great steps. I think we are well on our way to the holy grail of having zero or negligible emissions or pollution while generating energy, whether for mobility or for other uses. I think the steps that you have enumerated and the way in which our country is moving ahead on all these fronts is very, very optimistic scenario for all of us. Thank you so much, Kapoor sir. Thank you.
Thank you, President, for your remarks, and thank you very much, Secretary sir. But before I go next of CSIDC to speak, I have the privilege to invite Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, who's the chairman of our Power, Renewable Energy, Alternate Fuel Energy Committee. Chairman, briefly that what kind of initiative you have taken in PHDCCI, especially under this committee, and your plans. Over to Mr. Sanjeev Gupta.
Thank you, Dr. Yogesh. But I think today was the day which I would say has been conquered by Tarun Kapoorji. So I must, on behalf of PhD, tell him that, sir, you have last interacted with PhD also around a month ago. But today again, you brought out so many investment schemes for the benefit of industry. And your words that resonate in my mind is that the alternative fuels are being promoted, encouraged, and enthused, and will be supported by these oil marketing companies and all others, is really most heartening, sir, and we thank you for that. But since I have been asked to, brief you and all of the others present, sir, this committee of ours at PhD is an integrated committee focusing on power, renewable energy, and alternative energy. Power, as we are all aware, sir, is a traditional source of energy in this country. But you have earlier been at MNRE also, sir. And similarly, you have promoted a lot of investments and the complete catalyzing of that sector. And I compliment you for that. So I think people should understand, the industrialists present here through PhD and all the other serious investors should understand that you will leave no stone unturned to promote alternative fuels in this country again, even through your oil and gas sector industry, petroleum sector industry. And we are already seeing that. So we also, sir, support similarly the renewable energy, as you would recall. And I had the benefit of interacting with you even at the MNRE, and also you were kind enough to give us a seat on the top programs. But at the same time, sir, now the alternative energy has come into the forefront, sir. Like many others, we believe that alternative fuel technologies, alternative energy technologies will take the front seat in the next decade. And through PhD, sir, we are also promoting various alternative fuels, some of which you have already brought out: ethanols, LNG, compressed biogases, biofuels. Also, not to miss out, sir, some things like green hydrogen and other, where PhD is again trying to take a leadership position. We just organized a conclave on that as well, talking about innovations in green energy, sir. We'll continue to interact with you, and especially Tarun Kapoor, sir. We'll take a lot of your guidance and will like to help this be positioned in the center stage of India's building of an Atmanirbhar Bharat, sir. We will be there shoulder to shoulder with you. And thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Yogesh. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I have just now been told that Mr. Pungwa is busy in a meeting, so he will be joining later. And before I request another esteemed speaker, Mr. Arun Prasad Palinaswamy, is the Managing Director of CSIDC, I would like to request the host to kindly share the audio video of CSIDC. Can I request the host, Aditya Tripathi, to please share with the audience the audio video of CSIDC?
Yes, sir, we are doing that.
Please. big round of applause. That under the leadership of our managing director CSI DC, this is one of the best audio visual. I must say, Arun Prasad ji, this is one of the best audio visual I could ever see. And let me also share it with you that we, after our president, Mr. Sanjay Agrawal taking over, I must share it with the audience that PhD has also has a very beautiful office in CSIDC complex. So this is also the information for the audience as well as also for the speakers. And as MD sir, it has already been said that Chhattisgarh is the rice bowl of our country. Let me also share it with you, me being the student of tourism, that Chhattisgarh also has the Niagara Falls of India. So we are very proud to say that the after the Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated Atal Surang, we have Atal Nagar already existing in our Raipur in Chhattisgarh. So with this note, let me also commit on behalf of PhDCCI Managing Director sir that Chhattisgarh is looking for 9,000 crore investment. PhDCCI has a very vibrant Chhattisgarh chapter under the dynamic leadership of Mr. Shashank Rastogi, and we are committed to invite the investors and promote MSME in Chhattisgarh. So with this note, now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request Mr. Arun Prasad Palinaswamy, the Dynamic Managing Director of CSIDC, to kindly share his few words. Over to Mr. Arun Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Yogesh, for your generous introduction. And first of all, I want to thank the President and other members of the PhDCCI for giving us this opportunity. And I will give a small outlook because Mr. Tarun Kapoorji has given a very vibrant introduction with the vision of India in terms of future alternative fuel requirements. And he has expressed the points from compressed gas to bioethanol to electric vehicles. So I don't want to go into all those things. Bioethanol is one of the alternative fuel. It has been like in the vision of the government of India. Our state government, with the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, has taken a few steps ahead to promote bioethanol in a very big way. So even India has set an indicative target of blending the fuel with bioethanol to the extent of 20% by 2030. And being Chhattisgarh is in rice belt of India and we have surplus rice available with us, we have taken the initiative to use this surplus rice for conversion into bioethanol and supply to the oil companies to ensure the alternative fuel. And it's a very welcome measure that the government of India has fixed the rate of ethanol from the surplus rice procured from FCI. And I'm very thankful for the government of India to come out with such a decision. And we, Chhattisgarh have around 80 lakh metric tons of rice produced every day, and it always keeps increasing in coming years. And our government has taken a special initiative by giving notification specifically for bioethanol to promote the bioethanol producing investors into the state. So along with that, we have also issued a notification setting up of like alcohol-based distillery from the rice, just to increase the feasibility and clarity of the investors in the bioethanol. So right now, we have in our policy, we have an early bird scheme where within like 1.5 years, 18 months, if any of the investors coming to production, we give special cash incentives to make them very remunerative to come into early production. And we have a public distribution system, and after that, right, every year we have around 6 lakh metric tons of excess rice available here. And in this process, we have already did MOU to the tune of 500 crores, and they are in the process of establishing their own plant. And we have also promoted the bioethanol through the molasses as a raw material. That deal has also been finalized and the process has been initiated. And we are further negotiating with the investors for taking up the bioethanol not only from molasses but also from the sugarcane juice. So ultimately, this particular bioethanol project has been taken as a very high priority sector in our policy. It has been added as a high priority sector. And further, we have the raw material to produce around 700 mld ethanol. So that's everything is in the pipeline. So my humble request to all the attendees here is that our government in big way is promoting bioethanol as an alternative fuel. Though we have surplus power in terms of energy from thermal, and we are into the solar energy too, and we are promoting e-vehicles. But this sector, bioethanol, is somewhere where we are giving the complete trust, and even the Honorable Chief Minister is open to further policy changes which might help the investors to come here and use the excess raw material, that is rice, which is available here, and go for bioethanol production. Because this energy security is going to be the core in Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, because we don't have to rely upon the crude oil, and at the same time, futuristically, from the pollution point of view, like entire world is talking about greenhouse effects, global warming kind of thing. So it's imperative that we should have some alternative plans in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme and in terms of pollution. So I welcome everyone to come over to Chhattisgarh and invest in bioethanol plant. And we have a huge land bank of around 5,000 acres spread all across the state. So it's available readily for allocation, and we can proceed further. And if there is, I'll share a presentation later in this group, which will give some data about the policies, incentives towards the bioethanol plant. And the land bank details are available in our website. I am sharing the website details. And I'm also sharing the details of our contact person, including me, for further future queries. And once again, I thank the President PSDI for giving us this opportunity. And also our Principal Secretary, Mr. Manoj Pingwa, has shared his apologies for not able to join because he was held up with an emergency meeting in the CM House. So if possible, he will join in the later. If not, he has conveyed his apologies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Managing Director, sir, for your wonderful remarks. And as I have said at the outset, that we have number of people have joined with this new website, that is www.afterexpoandconclave.com. So I have also been told just now, a group of Chhattisgarh students, Managing Director, sir, this is for your kind information, that a group of Chhattisgarh students at Indian Institute of Mass Communication have already connected with this website after expoandconclave.com. These are 55 students of Chhattisgarh, and they are making a clapping a sign at my WhatsApp after seeing a beautiful audio visual of Chhattisgarh, and also saying that they are the people who will be doing a lot of good work in the area of media and entertainment, especially from Chhattisgarh. So with this note, ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker, as MD Mr. Arun Prasad ji have already said that Mr. Pingwa is busy in a meeting, and I have just now been told that Mr. Vivek Joshi, Executive Director, Natural Gas Society, is also not able to join because of the health issues. I have just now got this WhatsApp. So he has also sent his best wishes. I wish him all the very best health. So not be able to speak and join in this program. So with this note now, we request Mr. E.S. Ranganathan, the Director Marketing, GAIL India Limited, to kindly share his thoughts. And especially, I would also request him that this 3-day exhibition which we are doing, Ranganathan Saab, please also give your opinion on this and the initiative taken by PhD Chamber of Commerce along with CSIDC, which we are very thankful that CSIDC support in this exhibition come conclave. Over to Mr. E.S. Ranganathan, Director Marketing, GAIL. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, and good morning to all the participants, especially the office bearers of PSDCCI. And my thanks for inviting me to share my views on this day. It's very heartening to see that, such a seminar is being conducted, virtual exhibition, and the topic is also very apt, as Secretary Saab has pointed out. It's the alternative fuel technology for vehicles, because this is something which is being debated all through, and we have done a lot of debates, but ultimately the market forces will prevail. So we can only speculate in this matter, but I would like to put forth some of the technical viewpoint in this matter. As we all know, India is, now we have become the highest producer of automobiles as far as in the world as such. We have overtaken Germany now, and we are producing several types of vehicles. It's for personal, commercial, defense, sports, and recreation. Today we have over 6 crore vehicles. That's the population of vehicles in India, out of which we have got a natural gas vehicle of 34 lakhs. That means 34 lakhs are running on CNG. And CNG, as Secretary Saab also pointed out, has emerged as a very strong alternate fuel because of the strength of the less pollution, and then a better fuel economy, and hence the better fuel prices compared to other liquid fuels. And now the CNG has been spread with the support of the government and the regulator to around 400 districts in the country out of 700. So now today 50% of the geographical area is covered by access to gas, and 70% of population has actually access to natural gas. So this is a great fillip. But the next one that's emerging is the LNG. LNG, as you know, has already been successfully established as a transport fuel in many countries, including China, US, and Europe. In our case also, efforts are on to adopt LNG as a transport fuel for long-haul trucks and buses. The introduction of LNG as automobile fuel requires setting up of LNG infrastructure along the national highways. The transportation fleet operators typically operate on a pan-India basis along main trunk roads. Accordingly, the Golden Quadrilateral and the North-South and East-West corridor has been started, identified as for putting up 120 LNG stations. This is under the aegis of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and all the public as well as private city gas distributors present along these highways are actually setting up in their respective GAs. So we expect that in another 9 months, we will have 120 LNG outlets in this country, which will actually start. It will be a market seeding process. We are also talking to the mining and the mining equipment as well as the mining trucks, which for conversion to LNG. Another area which is now emerging is the biofuel. And we all know that the biofuel have the very huge potential in this country. It's a sort of a waste to wealth theory. As per the International Energy Authority, it is estimated that biofuels or bio-waste make up around 20% of the total energy mix in the country. As far as biogas is concerned, compressed biogas potential from waste or biomass in India is estimated around 52 million tons per annum. The national policy on biofuels released by the Government of India in 2018 aims to increase usage of biofuels in the energy and transportation field of the country. And another one which has been rolled out by the Ministry of Petroleum is the Satat scheme, which Secretary mentioned briefly. It's sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation. This scheme is launched by the ministry as an alternative green transport fuel. Under Satat, it is planned that the largest 25% of this potential, around 15 mmTPA, will be in place by 2024 through 5,000 CBG plants. GAIL and other OMCs are contributing by procuring compressed biogas from startups, MSMEs, etc., for using as CNG fuel for vehicles. The Satat scheme is expected to have a multidimensional impact on India's overall economy, the rural economy in particular, and the environment. The CBG can be used as an auto fuel. It's a replacement of CNG and can be transported through the mobile cascade. And it can also be used for industrial and commercial fuel, replacing natural gas. Under Satat, for providing marketing tie-up up to CBG entrepreneurs, GAIL has also invited joint expression of interest on behalf of the associated city gas companies. Till date, we have issued 65 letters of intents. Further, to support the CBG entrepreneurs through funding, GAIL has also solicited investment proposal under its startup scheme called PUNK. Ethanol is also a very significant player in the biofuel arena. The ethanol blending has not only emerged as an alternative, but has also cut the oil bill of this country, apart from helping in reducing the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide emissions by around 15%. Another area which is now emerging is the hydrogen. And, in another 1 week, a HCNG plant is expected to be started up in Delhi, catering to 50 buses. But the hydrogen fuel cell is another advanced technology area many industries are working on, particularly the mobility sector, where many OEMs have regarded fuel cell as even more efficient than battery-operated vehicles. However, fuel cells generated from electrolysis of water are still uneconomical in the Indian context. I think we are still in development stage and we can derive real benefits of the fuel cells. My colleagues from Indian Oil would add more to this, as I understand that they have undertaken some pilot projects in fuel cell domain. And finally, in mobility, it will be, it will not be complete unless we talk of the electric vehicle. If we take the example of the success of electric vehicles in, the Western world and China, it is widely understood that electric vehicle infrastructure is a prerequisite to widespread adoption of electric vehicles. In India, there is a huge scope for adoption of the new age mobility technologies like electric vehicles, given the low per capita vehicle ownership in the country. GAIL believes that different forms of energy can coexist, may it be liquid fuel, CNG, or electric vehicle, as long as they offer economic value to the consumer. However, consumers of the new era, especially after adoption of EVs, will have more options to choose from for their mobility needs. Oil companies like IOCL, BPCL, HPCL, etc., and companies in the power sector like NTPC, BHEL have already made their moves in this sector, which brings huge credibility to this. I think that apart from the policymakers, the startup companies and investors in the EV sector, energy sector players like Indian Oil, GAIL, NTPC, etc., have huge role to play, as we have been in the industry for a long time, and today we can support new technology like electric vehicle by making large-scale investments. Even if we say complete electric vehicles by 2030, it may not be a complete solution for all transport-related issues, as there are challenges like ecosystem, functionality, and affordability vis-a-vis competing and feasible options available, with hydrogen fuel cell, methanol, biodiesel, which are actually economically and ecologically viable. Therefore, it is best that we should not promote any single fuel technology for vehicles, but keep policy formulation for any sector as technology neutral and leave it to the market forces to decide which technology to be used based on the pros and cons, as wherever attempts have been made to promote a technology not based on the market forces have not achieved the desired result. Hence, the market forces should be allowed to play for deciding the fate of technology or alternate fuels for the transport sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranganathan, sir. He's Director Marketing with GAIL, and as he has rightly said, that companies like GAIL have a huge responsibility. They are doing a lot of good work, not only in Delhi, but also in other major parts of India. And sir, as you rightly said, that by 2030 we really need to have mandatory electric vehicles. But I think, especially in Delhi, now the time has come that we must, brainstorm ourselves and think that whether by 2020 or 2021 or whatever, then what is the best fuel we should be using in Delhi so that we can curb this pollution which is there. I mean, each and every section of the government is blaming each other, be it from Delhi government to central government, that Parali gives only 4%, as the honorable minister says, the chief minister says something else. But I think GAIL is doing a major important role to ensure that especially the pollution curbs over here. So with this note, thank you very much, Ranganathan Saab. I must share it with you. We have a dedicated hydrocarbon committee at PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. One of my good friend, Dr. Ranjit Mehta, along with Ankita Gupta, under the leadership of Mr. Saurabh Sanyal, we look after that committee, and that committee is dedicated to raise such kind of issues to the industry. So we will certainly come, sir, one day with your kind permission, while maintaining the social distance. I know that you are based in Delhi, and we will come and then meet you also, Ranganathan Saab. So with this note, now the time has come when I call our inspired chairman of Chhattisgarh chapter, Mr. Shashank Rastogi. Before I go to the next technical session, I would request Mr. Rastogi to give the formal vote of thanks for this inaugural session and share his thought on this. Over to Mr. Shashank Rastogi, chairman, Chhattisgarh chapter, PhD CCI. Yourself, Mr. Chairman, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yogesh ji. Am I audible?
You are very much audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Mr. Tarun Kapoor, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Mr. Manoj Kumar Pingwa, Principal Secretary, Commerce and Industry, Government of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Arun Prasad ji, MD, CSIDC Chhattisgarh. Mr. O.P. Banjare, General Manager, CSIDC. Mr. E.S. Ranganathan, Director, Marketing, GAIL India Limited. Mr. Vivek Joshi, Executive Director, Natural Gas Society. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal ji, our President, PhD CCI, New Delhi. Mr. Saurabh Sanyal, Secretary General, and my friend, Dr. Yogesh Srivastava, Principal Director, PhD CCI. Gasoline and diesel may be the reigning champs, but it looks that they have got some serious competition from hydrogen, biofuel, electricity, ethanol, etc. With growing concerns of the automotive industry's impact on the environment through carbon emissions, the vehicle, including car and bike owners, are seeking alternative energy solutions that offer great sustainability. The first ever virtual Expo and AMP Conclave being organized by PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry is indeed a good platform for showcasing cutting-edge technologies and resources which can be used to run vehicles apart from petrol and diesel. Being an industry representative from Chhattisgarh, I would like to throw some light on significance of Chhattisgarh in providing non-fossil alternative fuel for vehicles. Chhattisgarh is known as the rice bowl of India, It is estimated that 6 lakhs metric ton of paddy may be available after meeting requirement of PDS, public distribution system, for production of ethanol in Chhattisgarh state. And that is why government of Chhattisgarh wants to promote production of bioethanol here. The future of bioethanol as an alternative fuel for vehicles appears to be bright, as the need for renewable energy sources to replace dependence on foreign oil is in high demand. Ethanol as fuel provides high quality, high octane for exceptional engine performance. Anhydrous ethanol without water can be blended with petrol in varying quantities.
May I request the host to kindly mute everybody except Mr. Shashank Rastogi. Host, please mute everybody except Mr. Shashank Rastogi.
Ethanol as fuel is increasingly used as an oxygenate additive for standard petrol. As a replacement for MTBE, the latter chemical being responsible for considerable groundwater and soil contamination. The husk and paddy straw should not be burnt. Instead, it should be sold to the plant set up in the area. When the farmer knows that every part of his produce will be bought, he will ensure he doesn't burn it. Apart from the most immediate problem of stubble burning, there could be long-term positive impact, including significant reduction in fuel consumption with blending of ethanol. The Chhattisgarh government has listed biofuel production in high priority industry and is inviting new investors, industries, entrepreneurs for setting up bioethanol production plant from the additional paddy available in the state of Chhattisgarh. It will be the first state in India to use rice and paddy husk to produce the biofuel. I sincerely hope that the entrepreneurs attending this event will seriously consider bioethanol as non-fossil fuel for transportation. Chhattisgarh government will provide them the necessary ecosystem for investment in production of bioethanol. I would like to thank Tarun Kapoor, sir, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India, for sparing his valuable time and giving his ministry's vision on the theme, and Mr. Arun Prasad ji, MD CSIDC, for becoming the partner state for this event and for highlighting bioethanol as an alternative fuel for transportation. Mr. E.S. Ranganath, Marketing GAIL, for explaining how GAIL is contributing to the clean fuel mission in India. I sincerely hope that the automobile manufacturers will come forward and manufacture vehicles for India which will run on clean fuel, as I also appeal to all the participants to adopt such vehicles for your day-to-day use. Thank you all for participating in this event. Thank you so much. Over to you, Yogesh ji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shashank Rastogi, our inspiring chairman of Chhattisgarh chapter. Under his leadership, the chapter is doing number of meaningful programs. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also share it with you. This program was not possible without the kind support of Mr. Shashank Rastogi ji, also with my resident director Sumit Dubey and Kanendra Pandey. And it would not be nice if I don't make these two names over here, Atul Thakur and Aditya Tripathi, those who are looking the State Development Council. They are the people, those who have taken the initiative, and this program and exhibition is possible. So we will not go for break now, ladies and gentlemen. We will go for the technical session. And I have been told that the technical session is way forward for making India a hub of sustainability mobility. And as our chairman and all the speakers have already said, that by 2030 we really need to have electric vehicles, and the electric vehicle market is anticipated to grow a robust CAGR of 43.13% during the forecast from 2019 to 2030. So India has the potential to become one of the largest EVs market in the world, with the government publishing for the segment in order to curb pollution. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will have this session, and the session will also host the key decision makers in the government and industry and sectoral experts to brainstorm for a way forward to strengthen the EV and NGV ecosystems in India. Let me share it with you that in this technical session, I am having the proud privilege to announce that inspiring chairman, Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, chairman of Power, Renewable and Alternate Fuel Energy Committee, PHDCCI. He'll be speaking. Post that, Ambassador Mr. Manjveer Singh Puri, senior Indian diplomat and India's foreign former ambassador to Nepal, European Union, Belgium, and United Nations. Post that Mr. Sham Lal Goyal. I'm sorry, Shal Lal Goyal, Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra. Post that Mr. Jyoti Kalash, Additional Chief Secretary and Principal Resident Commissioner, Government of Nagaland. Post that Mr. Bishal Thapa, Managing Director, Saral Urja. And after that, Miss Akansha Sharma, Head Social Impact and Sustainability, Sterlite Technologies Limited. And there would be a presentation also by Mr. Nikhil Moge, Partner PMG. Post that Mr. Justin Lane, Business Analyst, InnoBat Auto will be speaking, and the concluding remarks and the formal vote of thanks will be given by one of our dedicated and inspiring Secretary General, Mr. Saurabh Sanyal of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industries. So with this brief note, now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, Chairman, Power Renewable Alternate Fuel Energy Committee, PhD CCI, to kindly give his welcome remarks. Over to Mr. Sanjeev Gupta.
Thank you, Dr. Yogesh Srivastava. In fact, it has been a very, very inspiring session, and I must congratulate our very able Shashank Rastogi ji, the chairman of the Chhattisgarh committee, who has brought Chhattisgarh again into the limelight at a very appropriate time and on a topic which is of national importance, as I said, when our Honorable Secretary Petroleum and Natural Gas was there. I brought this out also, that Tarun Kapoor ji has not only always led both the industry and also the country, but very appropriately this has been positioned, and he rightly brought out that it can help in various industries being catalyzed and bringing up more and more opportunities. But let me today start this session by, first of all, done that, but I will add my welcoming remarks. Of course, also who's with us, S.L. Goyal, Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra, Mr. Jyoti Kalash, Mr. Bishal Thapa, Miss Akansha Sharma.
I think some issue with your connection. We can't hear him. Host, can you come in?
Oh, I see. Oh, let me
Yes,
try
now
to
you are
change
audible.
the connection, maybe.
No, now you are audible,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
You are audible, sir. Now, yeah.
Okay. So
Please go ahead.
I hope that my welcome remark was there, and I would like to request my.
You are again gone, sir.
Change the connection, please. Let me change the connection.
Please do that, sir. Yeah, please do that. That would be great. We have time. Host, you should also be, making sure that your camera is on. Mr. Aditya Tripathi and Atul Thakur with my friend Paramjeet. Yes, you have a handsome face, so you should always be ensuring that your camera is on, Aditya. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So now, Mr. joining soon, since there are internal connectivity issue, and as you all are aware, this is the new normal. Sanjeev ji, now we can hear you. Sanjeev sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our apology. We know that such kind of issues come up under this new normal. Yeah. Sanjeev sir. Host, do something.
So I think the problem is at
Problem is the internal internet connection. Am I right?
turn off.
It's worked out, is it?
Yeah. No problem. Take some time. Let's have some patience.
Is this Mr. Tripathi or somebody? Somebody can respond. If it's
Yes.
working
Now. Yes. Yes, sir. Now it is audible, Sanjeev sir. And please go ahead from the beginning.
Yeah. So. All of the chamber, I will not like in the interest of time and in the interest of continuity, we go on. I was only saying that it's very important that this timing of this conference is very apt, because we are aligned with the Government of India's mission to kind of build an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Oil and gas is among the 6 most core industries of this country, and natural gas and petroleum account for 15% of the India's GDP, taking into account even the refined account gas blocks. Number 5 to carbon dioxide. Which is 5 tons that we have India to the Dr. Yogesh. Am I audible? Am I audible?
You are very, yes, sir. Very much audible, sir.
Okay, I'll go on.
Very much audible. Yeah, please carry on.
So I would like, for the benefit of some of the distinguished panelists who joined late, that a great initiative has been put in place by the Oil and Gas Ministry, headed by Tarun Kapoorji, in which he brought out the one big statement that alternative fuels are not only being promoted, but will be encouraged and supported by the entire industry. He brought out some key initiatives, including the LNG, the compressed biogases and the fuels, 100% ethanol, and so many others which oil and marketing. And I drew attention to the specific mention of the electric vehicles and specifically the key issue of electric charging stations. So with that as a background, let me say that, of course, a lot is being done, but a lot remains to be done. And I'm looking forward to this panel to add on to how, India can achieve the 6 to 7 million electric vehicles and the hybrid vehicles that we wish to bring on the roads of India and save a lot of, the carbon emissions. So with I would say that let me start a little on the formal side. I think we are all aware that India is one of the fastest growing economies. And of course, we definitely are putting a little strain, as I said, on the fastest growing, the largest growing industries across the globe, contributes largely to the country's manufacturing facilities. Moreover, electric vehicles in India pull up as compared to the other international markets such as US, China, and others. Herein, we at PhD Chamber are putting in a lot of emphasis on green hydrogen. And as I think one of the key panelists in the opening session also brought out, that hydrogen fuel cell technology is going to be the key game changer as we go on and as we focus there. So I think that's another thing that PhD is clearly focused on and is trying to promote. I would strongly urge that the industry present here aligns itself with PhD and help us bring to light some of the these innovative technologies to your business and help you grow in that. Of course, sustainable adoption. Are going to be challenges. Center is running a scheme by to promote the adoption of electric vehicles in multimodal public transportation, which I think most of us are aware. I once up, I'm audible. I'm trying to rush out my speech, but thank you. Thank you. But the limited supply of lithium as the current better battery technology continues to, challenge. And of course, India has to import lithium, and that's where, the interdependence comes in spite of the fact that India is actually trying to fulfill its desired supply chain management. However, the global prices of the commodities do impact the alternative solution providing. Electric cars may become costlier, lack of charging stations remain a concern. Alternative technologies accordingly, which include, as I said, the green hydrogen, biodiesel, natural gas, 100% ethanols, solar energy, and so on and so forth as some of the most viable, alternative, and long-term implementable solutions. Alongside, another important area that we would like to touch upon at vehicles deliveries and other commercial applications. There is a huge and booming commerce in India for most of the vehicles, and a large number of these vehicles could be electric, and we would like to also promote the bicycles and others. At this point of time, it would be very relevant to also bring out to most of the people present here, while I'm sure most of you know PhD Chamber, but I'm duty bound to bring out PhD Chamber is sir. It started in 1905. Most of you have actively supported it, and I look forward to that on a continued basis. We do remain as one of the most catalyzing chamber today, not only at the MSME sector, but to the most innovative technologies. Look forward to your participation to further take it forward. Just one moment, sir, also for our special committee, Power, Renewable and Alternative Energy. It's a very composite committee, starts from power, looks into all the thermal and the other traditional sources, goes on and has casted a leadership in the renewable energy sector. Some of us have been at the forefront of the renewable energy sector and especially solar. I have had the privilege of being the financial advisor to the solar mission of Gujarat as well, and have worked in the chamber very actively to kind of make sure that we try to promote that as an idea, as a philosophy, as a technology. The whole of the last dedicated to making renewable energy cost effective. Having succeeded that, now PhD Chamber is very focused on working on the alternative technologies also, not only for the vehicles, but also the technologies like green hydrogen, electric vehicle, alternate energies, all get promoted. And I not only invite some of the key established players, but all the startups who are thinking about alternative energies and their positioning there to PhD Chamber. And I think we would be very, very happy to not only help you, connect you to all the key thinkers, but also the funding sources and also distinguished respect that is deserving of every startup which is focused on the energy sector in this country. With that, let me thank all of you, and I look forward to listening to all of you and learning from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, Chairman of Power, Renewable and Alternate Energy Committee, PhD CCI, for your wonderful remarks, though it was, interrupted, but later we could be able to hear you very nicely. Thank you very much, Chairman, sir, once again. And ladies and gentlemen, as you all are aware that the name of this technical session is The Way Forward for Making India a Hub of Sustainability Mobility. So under this topic, we are very happy to share with you that we have uh, Ambassador Mr. Manjveer Singh Puri ji, who would be giving us the global perspective. He is also the senior Indian diplomat and India's former ambassador to Nepal, European Union, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the United Nations. So may I request the ambassador to kindly share his thought on this topic and how India can really become a a hub for sustainable mobility. Over to you, Ambassador Manjveer Singh ji.
Thank you, Dr. Srivastava. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Srivastava, my name is Manjeev Singh Puri. For many years, I was involved with the United Nations as India's Deputy Permanent Representative and the lead negotiator at all the climate change and sustainable development negotiations. So I have an abiding interest in this matter. Very recently, after my retirement, I have joined TERI as a distinguished fellow and have for many years been on their advisory board. So I want to really thank PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They're friends of mine from my years in Nepal and elsewhere. But I really want to thank all of you for having thought of me and invited me. Secretary General Saab and Atul, of course, who's a personal friend. To you, Dr. Srivastava, thank you very much for the introduction, giving me this opportunity to speak. Namaskar. I didn't hear too much of Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, and I see that he's again off the radar screen. But I heard someone say something like, we have time. Sir, let me start off by telling you, you do not have time. We have lagged behind in the idea of trying to do decarbonization in our economy. And there is a good reason why we have lagged behind. I have personally been in the forefront of fighting to stave off limits for ourselves. And the reason is very simple. We have a very long way to go. I don't want to talk about the world economic outlook and so on and so forth, but we actually have a very long way to go. We are certainly among the 5 largest economies in the world, looking at pre-COVID aggregate figures released by the IMF. But if you look at per capita income, I think there is absolutely no doubt that if there is one large economy which needs space and which has not been responsible for environmental degradation in the world, indeed, our per capita GHG emissions remain below the average for developing countries. But I'm afraid the reality of the world is that you are brought onto the table and you need to be part of a solution, even though you have not been part of the problem. So we need to do something. And I want to thank the PhD Chamber of Commerce because you have very rightly identified the states of India. You know, whether we like it or not, no matter that the delegations are led by the central government, the fact of the matter is it is the states which have to have an integral role and need to have ownership of the sustainable development agenda. There is no other way out for them. And I will try to make a few simple points here to try and bring the global to the local, as they say. Let me try and say a few very simple things first. You know, we are a very focused seminar today, and this focus is on alternate fuels for vehicles. And I can understand that a great deal of effort and conversation would revolve around electric vehicles. But please look around. Are we really leaders? Are we really doing well? We are very happy to say that our own automobile sector is doing well. Well, one of the things we must note is that the sector is doing well, but perhaps the largest amount of contribution now comes as a result of foreign companies operating in India, whether we look at Suzuki or we look at Ford or Toyota or anyone. I have nothing against it. In my scheme of things, the new Atmanirbhar Bharat cannot be the Bharat of the 1960s and 70s, where the Birlas continue to produce the Morris Oxford and the Walchand Nagar continue to produce the Fiat, the designs of which were sent to them in the 1950s. The new Atmanirbhar Bharat has got to be up with the scratch and competitive with the world. This is a no-go situation as far as I am concerned, especially as India looks at taking its place around the global high table. This is a no-go. Now, let me make a point to you about electric vehicles. Have any of you ever paused to think, why are all vehicles, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, all running on the internal combustion engine? You know, the internal combustion engine was kind of discovered or invented around the same time as electric power was brought into force. But the main reason why everything moved toward the internal combustion engine was that in the United States, the electric power companies, Edison Power in particular, was not willing to roll out electric power stations across the length and breadth of the United States. Standard Oil, the oil company, Rockefeller's oil company, instead did it, and we moved to this. I'm drawing people's attention because hardly anybody remembers why are the reasons and why is what happened. And what is the fundamental point that I'm trying to drive home through this? The fundamental point is that mobility and vehicles need fuel on the go. So please remember this fact. If you want to have alternate fuels, if you want to have cleaner fuels, they need to be available on the go if you want it to be stretched towards mobility. I saw a recent report by the government saying that charging stations at petrol pumps would be allowed without license. Very good idea. But I think you have to do something much more than that. You need to understand that you need to refuel. We live in Delhi. Please tell me how many of you can identify charging stations outside maybe your home in case you happen to have an electric vehicle. I know of only one. I live in Defense Colony, and the one is in a place where I don't think it's very easy for us to even access. We need to understand how important this is. And this is where the state play. And they need to play this role along with the central government. But frankly, because they are in charge of land and land resources, this really becomes their baby and their job. This is the first and most important point that I'd like to make. Secondly, let me be very clear that globally, the world is calling a pause, not a pause, actually, they're calling a full stop to fossil fuels. We may say that we in India cannot do without coal, and that's true, and we won't do without coal for the next 40, 50 years. We need it. But the world is actually trying to move far away from it. Look at this. Cities such as Los Angeles and Paris have already said that by 2030, they will not allow fossil fuel run cars on their streets. Countries like the UK and several others have said they will ban the selling of petrol and diesel vehicles in their country. Now, as you become part of the global economy, become bigger in this game, do you think we can stay away from it? The answer is no. Let's only look at how the Bharat norms for petroleum products have evolved. And what do we want to do? We actually want to leapfrog, and rightly so. We want to benefit by lessons learned by others and leapfrog to the next generation. What does it mean for industrialists? It really means that please be aware of global trends and trends which are 20 years hence. That is the area in which India is going to catch up. So I want to leave this other point also very strongly with all the participants in today's forum, particularly those who are senior officials from state government, that this particular need for alternate fuels and for being able to make them accessible to vehicles would become an imperative. Please start planning for it. I think it's extremely important. Let me leave a positive note. You know, we are today talking about alternate fuels for vehicles, and we are limiting it at that. But is this really the case? Aren't alternate fuels going to be available for other economic activities? Today, we use electric power, for example, in gensets. Today, we look at so many other places where the same power, the same fuel gets used. you will find that each and every one of these particular alternate fuels that are being looked at, and I will spend just a few minutes on alternate fuels, but that's a purely technical side and where we are going. Question on alternate fuels is they will become available in a multi-use scenario. Therefore, the state governments should not think that alternate fuels, oh, it only means running a car or a truck. No, it will mean fueling their economy. And consequently, they again must think in terms of how they can utilize it, whether it's in the power sector or anything else. You know, we really need to decarbonize the generation of electric power. And we need to increase the use of electric power for industrial and transport purposes. I think this is an absolute given. When you add these two sides of the equation, you realize that you need to build the infrastructure. And infrastructure to cater to alternate is the key to going forward in every single one of these things. I will sort of end, and I'm very happy to take further questions. One specific area where state governments must straight away start focusing. And let us remember that states in India today are a very changed phenomena, mostly as a result of huge urbanization in India. There was a time when we limited ourselves to Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, and Chennai. Now look at the number of cities at the same level that we have in India. Certainly Hyderabad and Bengaluru, and I don't think Lucknow and many other places are far behind. So these large urban agglomerations actually make Indian states run enterprises which are like countries in many other parts of the world. And they therefore need to try and see what you can take from each of these. And this becomes absolutely imperative in terms of planning. And I won't say for the very long and unforeseeable future, for the very near term. Let me leave one very concrete thought. How about looking at trying to move public transport to alternate fuels? Let's start with electrifying public transport. This is squarely in the hands of state government. They are the ones who are the purveyors of all these fleets. If we try and move them away, the Supreme Court of India, in a historic judgment some 20 years back, mandated that in Delhi, all public transport will move towards CNG. It was a historic step. Most people said, how will it happen? But it has happened, hasn't it? And today, many people are even using CNG in their private cars. They look at the cost-benefit factors. In fact, in the case of diesel, if by any chance the duties were raised, you would find that many people move towards petrol. That is exactly what has happened in the rest of the world. If you recall this entire controversy of Volkswagen and this entire business of fudging their emissions data, what was it about? At the end of the day, it was purely a case that diesel was subsidized, and so people wanted to buy diesel cars. It made it better to sell that. If you remove that particular component in terms of the taxation, things will change. The point I'm trying to make to you is that public policy changes are going to happen. These will be done. And of course, in India's case, these will be dictated from the union government, from the central side. But these are things that should be taken into account in terms of planning your future. Today, all major state governments, all state governments in India are planning public transportation. See what you can do in terms of using electric power. And can you get that electric power fueled through alternate sources rather than purely fossil fuel? This will be to your advantage and long-term gains for whatever you do for your people. I'm very happy to take questions from friends, whoever are participating, but I want to leave a thought very strongly with everyone that we have no choice and we have no escape from it. Therefore, we should not only be prepared, but we should work towards preparing us. Now, let me say a few words about alternate fuels. Of course, we are all talking about electric power, and we are looking at solar energy, in which India, in a relatively short period of time, has made itself a near global leader. We may not have done much in terms of the technology, let me be very clear on that, but we've harnessed policy space which is available for policy regulations to bring solar power across the length and breadth of India, to make it available. And what are we seeing today? That solar power is in fact cheaper during the day than even coal-generated electric power. Will we be able to transform this? on a 24/7 basis? I don't know, but it's certainly a feasibility. We need to do more in terms of technology, in terms of developing technology. I'm afraid we don't have the best examples on that. We haven't really done well. Just as I mentioned to you, electric vehicles, we are not world leaders. In fact, perhaps the company in India which is doing the best is doing so with Chinese technology. We need to infuse technology. Do we need to do research? It goes without saying. But even if we can't do it for the time being, let's get hold of the best technologies. And then we are particularly good at innovation, at taking things forward to the next generation and making us up to scratch globally. So I want to leave this thought with you. Biofuels is another area that many people talk about. We are already blending petrol with ethanol. Can we do more? It will all depend on the technology in the manner in which it comes out. But we are again trying to restrict ourselves to vehicles. And here I would leave the idea of hydrogen. I think there should be little doubt that if a country like India took the lead globally of trying to say that, look, let's work on hydrogen. Can our companies also put some things together? I think if we did this, the world would be benefited. We would be perhaps the most benefited because let us remember, we actually have a paucity of fossil fuels. We're importing all our hydrocarbons. The coal that we have is not of the finest grade, and the new coal mines that we might open up would result in forest degradation. If we can go towards hydrogen, it would be a great asset as far as India is concerned. But technology needs to be developed, and we need to do something very special in terms of not just forging ahead, but pushing the world to forge ahead. So I want to thank you all very much. And I again want to go back to a few points that I made at the beginning. I want to tell people that thank you very much, PhD Chamber. Thank you very much, states, for focusing on what will be the most critical elements of our future. And we need to wed it to sustainable development. Remember that fuels for vehicles must be available on the go. Do something in the area where you can, which is public transportation. And you would have done yourself, people of your state, as well as India and I dare say the globe. And we would have then taken local to global. And that would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Manjeev Puri ji. Very inspiring words. And as he rightly said, if the states are robust, if the states' healths are good, if the states' health of our country is excellent, then only India can progress. He has also mentioned one of the points that the states are such in large, in huge in nature that you can count number of European countries, equivalent to our number of states. So I think his point is very valid that we really need to strengthen these states. Like if India is a great body, then all the parts of body must be strengthened so that India can be strengthened. So with this note and with his thoughts taking forward, I would like to now invite and Ambassador sir, we will certainly take the question and answer session post the speakers speak in every 5 to 7 minutes they are allotted, and then we will be having the question and answer session. So with this note, I would like to request Mr. Shal Lal Goyal, Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra, to kindly share his thought that how Maharashtra is basically taking initiative in this field, and then not only strengthening Maharashtra but particularly strengthening India. Over to the Additional Chief Secretary, Mr. Shal Lal Goyal Saab.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Josh.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah, audible. Yeah, thank you. I am looking after the state of Maharashtra in Delhi.
Yeah.
Representing the state. Our state government has come out with the solar policy. Our state government has issued the electric vehicle policy also. In our state, we are promoting use of alternative fuels like bagasse in boilers and the agri produce and all that. There are various policies. Government of India has also promoting for the alternative fuels, and I have heard 3-4 speakers. Excellent presentation. Mr. Tarun Kapoor also spoke and gave the Government of India perspective. I'm sure this is the need of the hour, that a country like us, that is India, which is blessed with the excellent sunshine and huge amount of biomass, we should focus on solar and bio CNG. Now, my study on bio CNG or biogas, whatever you call it, is that if we promote this bio CNG production in a scattered manner, which means the waste, which is agri waste mostly, and other kinds of waste like human waste or the municipal solid waste, and all other kinds of waste like slaughterhouse waste, all these waste, if these wastes can be processed in the village itself, then only it will make sense. Because if we make the waste to be transported from one place to other place, then it doesn't become viable. So we should have projects in the hinterland, in the villages itself. And the second thing which comes to my mind and which I've analyzed is, if the project proponent, the owner of the project, is different than the waste owner, then there is always a big chance of a quarrel amongst these two people. So my suggestion in this is that the waste producer, that is the owner of the waste, should be a stakeholder, minimum 50%, so that he will not create any trouble in supplying the waste, mostly the agri waste, bagasse, or this parali and all that. So if and in the animal waste like gobar and all that. So I have seen that whenever a project comes up and the project is ready, so the people who are supposed to supply the waste, they they will increase their terms, they will not supply, or they will reduce the quality, or they will keep on asking for higher price, and the project becomes unviable, and the project goes waste, and the money also goes down the drain, and ultimately it results no benefit to all. Everyone puts themselves into loss, and we are nowhere. So my suggestion in this is that the people who are into the policy making, they should consider this point very clearly, that the waste owners must participate by way of a policy guideline to the extent of, let's say, major shareholding, let's say 50%. And if we can do that, then the waste can produce a large amount of bio CNG, which can be used for various purposes, to run the industries, to run the vehicles, and to produce electricity also. And it will have cascading effect on our economy. We can have my estimate that if only waste can be, the entire waste of the country can be converted to bio CNG, the total value addition is to the extent of some $5 trillion. It's a very big figure, which is beyond understanding by the people. But the point is that if the waste of the entire country can be put to use, we can generate a lot of green waste by plantations, high yielding varieties of the green fodder and green waste, green grass, which can be planted on all the wastelands which are lying waste, and the farmers can increase their income by planting the grass, which can be in turn used to produce bio CNG. Similarly, if the entire waste can be used for bio CNG, then all our problems of pollution, air pollution, water pollution can reduce to a large extent. And the major benefit of import substitution, we will not be required to import large amount of crude oil to produce gas and to produce petrol and diesel. And our economy will get boost, the farmers income can definitely be doubled, in fact, more than doubled, if the waste produced by all the farmers can be put to proper use at the place of its production. Then the major benefit in terms of saving of foreign exchange is there. The saving of greenhouse gases, which our waste is lying here and there, it is producing greenhouse gases, which is disturbing our environment. And because of disturbance in the environment, we are seeing all kinds of natural disasters which our country is facing. So those things can also be tackled or can be reduced to a large extent. So my suggestion is that the plants or the projects for management of waste for production of bio-CNG should be located in the hinterland in each village. Government should promote establishment of these projects by way of various interventions, by way of giving them some kinds of subsidies, or the bank can give them cheap finance, government can give some subvention, the electricity duty can be exempted, and there are many ways, as you know, to promote the industry. So if this can be done, then definitely our country's economic progress, the target of $5 trillion economy, the target of doubling the income of the farmers can be achieved, which unfortunately in the last 1 or 2 years, which we could not do much. And the farmers' productivity is increasing to a large extent, but they are not getting the value of their crops, and their income is actually not doubling, because many people feel that if the prices of the essential commodities goes up, then the consumer suffers and ultimately the farmer suffers. So the farmer's income is actually not getting doubled, and there is a backlash from the farmers, as we are seeing. They are agitating here and there. So that can be easily avoided if we can increase the income of the farmers by managing the entire waste. So a major focus on the bio-CNG, which my colleague Tarun Kapoor had talked in the morning. He was also, I was listening to him, he was very much emphasizing on this. Apart from all other things which he spoke, his major emphasis was on the bio-CNG or there's the compressed biogas. So instead of only talking, let's now come to the action, and government should come out very clearly with the clear-cut policies to promote this industry. And I mean, we are in hurry to do all these things. We should not waste time. And I'm sure the government of India, with the help of necessary technical and financial inputs from PhD chamber also, and all the colleagues available today, they are talking on the important subject of alternate fuel technology. In my view, compressed biogas or bio-CNG is the way ahead, which I hope everyone will take it forward. With these words, I would like to thank the PhD chamber to giving me an opportunity to put my thoughts together and to speak and share with you. With this, I'll close here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Goel Saab. Thank you very much for your such a wonderful remarks. And as you have rightly said, that the time has come basically to have an alternate fuel energy policy in place and also to implement. You have rightly said the time has come to now to do some action, and that too in a speedy manner. As the Ambassador Puri also says, that we don't have any time left anymore, and we really need to adapt the global best practices in this sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me also share it with you that Mr. Goel is the resident commissioner also of Maharashtra government, and he's the additional chief secretary. And let me also share it with you. We have a very beautiful building that is called Maharashtra Sadan on KG Marg, and I am over there some few years back. Now, maybe post COVID, I would love to go over there since it has beautiful food also. You know, Goel Saab, it is there. So I would love to. I would love to go, because during my Hindustan Times days, I used to go over there and have lunch. You No, so I would certainly come, sir, with your kind permission.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Sure,
would
welcome.
would certainly meet you. So, ladies and gentlemen, he is actually the ambassador of Maharashtra, I would say, over here, who has says the time is here to do some immediate and speedy action. So, with this note, we are very thankful to Goel Sahab. Kindly be with
Thank
us.
you.
We will be having the question and answer session at the end of this session. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I have said, that number of people are also connected with the website which we have recently launched, for this exhibition come conclave. And now with this note, I have just now been told by my friend Aditya that Mr. Jyoti Kalash, the additional chief secretary and principal resident commissioner, government of Nagaland, would be joining later. But we have with us Mr. Bishal Thapa, managing director, Saral Urja. So I would now request Mr. Bishal Thapa, the managing director, Saral Urja, if he is connected. So kindly, oh, Mr. Jyoti Kalash is also there. Great, sir. Sir, I am very happy to see you and that you are there. And let me now, Thapa Sahab, request you later, because we would also like to know what is happening in the eastern side of the country and especially in Nagaland. So Mr. Jyoti Kalash is there with us. He is the additional chief secretary and principal resident commissioner, government of Nagaland. All yours, Jyoti Kalash, sir. If you can kindly give your remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for this invitation and this webinar. And I'm very sorry that I'm joining a little late. Reason being I was in a meeting. But anyway, as far as your question is concerned, I can only say that yes, oil technology has a lot of potential in the northeastern states, though it is yet to pick up there, because the mindset of people is slightly different from the developed states or developed cities. Nagaland in particular is, as you know, it's a tribal society. And in tribal society, a lot of education is required for introduction of these new technologies. For example, if we take, this electrical vehicles, it is still to be introduced in the state. Though a few vehicles have come in the eastern sector, but the impact of these electric vehicles is set to take place in the state. Though there is a lot of potential in the state, people are looking for kind of introduction of alternate fuel technology. But unless until the market is correct, unless until the market is good for buyers to look for this kind of technology, we need to do a lot of homework, and so these are the challenges, and one has to accept the challenge, and most likely I will be taking over as chief secretary of the state in a couple of days over there. So I will definitely love to introduce this AFT there, because it has many benefits. It has an environmental benefit. It is cost effective, and people will love to accept this technology. So the driving force has to be there. People should accept it, and the kind of education, the kind of awareness through public materials and publicity, and through print, visual media, etc. So that is very much required, and it has to be aggressively followed over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. As your name is so sacred, Jyoti Kalash, I would say that we will certainly have some sacred initiatives under your dynamic leadership, sir, in Nagaland. And though I have never been to Nagaland, but let me share it with you. PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is Progress Harmony Development Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is a national body, national apex chamber, who is committed to strengthen the northeastern side of our country. And we have been doing number of programs in the past, that is pre-corona, in Sikkim and in other parts of the northeastern state, that is the Seven Sisters. And sir, with your kind permission, we would love to be over there post-corona and ensure that we do some physical programs post post-corona in Nagaland and try to strengthen these states and this state's economy and its wishes, desire to have more investors over there, sir. And since you are based in Delhi, I would love to come over there, sir, at your place too. And we will also share it with you, the recent initiatives which PHDCCI has taken, especially in the northeastern states, and our resident commissioner who is based in Assam, but who also is supposed to cover all the other 6 states of the northeastern side. So with this note, sir, thank you very much for giving your wonderful remarks, and please be connected with us, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to request now Mr. Thapa, who is the managing director of Saral Urja, to kindly share his remarks. Mr. Bishal Thapa.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me begin by thanking PhD CCI for this kind opportunity and invitation to say a few words on this very important subject. I think before me, several distinguished speakers have already elaborated considerably on many aspects of AFTs. So, I wanted to add a few dimensions that were actually touched upon, but just to reiterate and to emphasize, at least in some of the aspects of how we think about AFTs. First of all, one of the things we heard was the variety of different AFTs that are potential, and I focus more specifically around transport. But it's not just about electric, it's not about using ethanol, but there's a wide variety of fuels, and as you heard many speakers previously talk about it. So I think one of the aspects that is very important for us is not to now preclude or prejudge the feasibility of one specific fuel, be it electric or otherwise, primary or secondary, as a mode of transportation. But I think technology is evolving fast and in multiple and different ways that allows us to really look at a whole diverse portfolio of fuels. And so we shouldn't make the mistake that we have made, which is in the past, which is about singly focusing all a segment in one particular fuel. I think our technological diversity to be the sort of outstanding winners of it, but to really look at a variety of fuels, and as from a policy perspective, begin to support a wider variety of different technologies using a different set of fuels. I think that's very important. I also wanted to touch upon, within this aspect, the potential for hydrogen. I think that is increasingly being touched upon as a transport fuel. And it'll come back a little bit later, but, one of the things that, so there are many fuels, some of which are very advanced in terms of commercial application, some of it may be more nascent in terms of commercial application, some of may have significant implications in terms of its feedback with agriculture, etc. And so I think from a government policy point of view, we should obviously try to push ones that give us many of the dividends we're looking for in climate, eco-sustainability, etc. But at the same time, continue to push fuels that look like very frontier fuels, but have a potential in the future for multiple other reasons. So a portfolio and diversity of fuels, I think, is very important to maintain. The second thing that I want to touch upon is when we think about digital fuels or this kind of, not digital fuels, sorry, when we talk about alternative fuels and its applications across different segments, one of the things that maybe may not have been highlighted as much is the use of digital technologies. And while digital technologies are not a fuel, I think it's very important to understand how digital technologies today are enabling the use of different fuels. And so increasingly we are finding in energy systems, particularly distributed energy systems, what's really making it all work, what's really interconnecting it, what's creating the applicability is the digitization of it. So, Ola and Ubers and those type of cab sharing technologies have transformed the way that many of us think about transport. It will likewise transform the way that we think about downstream or upstream, the application on fuels. So the inclusion of digital technologies is fundamentally transforming habits, which is also fundamentally then transforming the use of fuel. So I think that becomes a second important point that I wanted to highlight. The third is to think about the holistic or the more comprehensive nature of the energy sector, and of which alternative fuels, particularly for transport, begin to play a role. So increasingly, energy systems are very distributed. It's moving from centralized to distributed, and not one versus the other, but more in terms of an integrated manner. The second is that the nature of consumers are also changing. Consumers are not just consumers, but they're also producers of energy. The third is that consumers are also becoming increasingly conscious. So there is now a cab company which has entirely electric vehicles. And so when you hail a cab through its ride-sharing app or ride-hailing app, you are sure of a cab that is electric. Similarly, there are other cab companies that pick up on subtle other traits. So for instance, somebody wants only women drivers or some other dimension to it. So consciousness is also a very important part of it. So what all of this means is that we should also not make the mistakes of the past, which is to fail to look at the integratedness of this. The power of electric vehicles isn't simply because they shift from petroleum or fossil fuels, whichever they may be, to electric vehicles, but they fundamentally transform how you engage with the broader energy system. So electric vehicles are in effect millions of small storage that is roaming around the country that you could switch on and off. When you decide to charge up a vehicle, matters for the grid. When you choose to discharge a vehicle, matters for the grid. How you decide to charge a vehicle versus where you discharge a vehicle. So a vehicle storage could be used not just for moving you from point A to point B, but from powering your home should you lose power. Or, it changes the whole dimension of how you think about emergency responses. And so it's very important to look at these kinds of very distributed applications that are becoming like, the little pieces that are running within your centralized grid. And I think we have to work hard from a policy perspective to ensure that we're not making the same mistake of looking narrowly at just one segment, but broadening it so that everything is encompassed. And the third and the last thing that I want to pick up, and I think for me, this is a rather interesting and sometimes very forgotten point, is that, there are many different types of fuels, as you've heard, but individuals are also fuels by themselves. If you choose to ride a bicycle and you decide to pedal, you are the fuel, right? So a lot of the fuel is about modal shift is a big fuel, and it's an often understated fuel. So all of these technologies that we're seeing that is coming in is helping to address many of the challenges we face on climate or sustainability and other aspects. But what we're also beginning to realize is that there may be an upper limit to consumption of certain types of fuels unless we return to a pattern of more sustainable consumption as a whole. So it's also about modal shift. Do we think about now traffic patterns and road systems that allow us to cycle to work? So it's somewhat ironic that when we look at India or other countries in South Asia, we find people are cycling to work because it's the natural mode of getting to work. There's lots of cycles. When you look at it, the West, there's big campaigns for, cycle to work. And so what was maybe in the past a mode of getting to work because nothing else was available, to in the West where everything is available and you're trying to switch back to getting people to cycle to work. So now there's some very interesting applications, such as, I give you an example that's being done in Scandinavian countries. Companies are encouraging their employees to use this app that allows them to cycle to work. And every time they cycle, they essentially earn some points. And you take these points and you go to an ice cream parlor and you say, hey, you trade in these points and you get it, right? So what was once a necessity for us, for many people, that's the only way they could get to work, to factories, to shops, around cities, in villages, is I wouldn't say a fad, but is becoming an encouragement towards it. So the two ends of the spectrum are really the same. And so we have to look at intermodal. That means we change the way that we think about vehicles. We change the way that if you have to go from point A to point B, to a nearby shop or a nearby whatever social setting, maybe the use of vehicle is avoided to either pedestrian, etc. But that also means, like, I live in Delhi, and I know that it's not very pleasant to walk because there aren't any pedestrian-friendly places. I remember seeing this rapid bus system that ran through, much of the South Delhi terrain all the way down. Actually, it was a beautiful stretch, and it was just torn up again because it didn't quite work within our context, so it seemed. So I think there's fundamentally the application of fuel is also requires us to look at our own uses and the types of consciousness and imperatives that we are trying to respond to in order to enable the outcomes that we want to. So, bicycles are as much of our capacity as humans, are as much of fuel. And we have to look at also encouraging that and not forget that. And the final part is, of course, as a fuel, is simply energy efficiency. It's not just supply. We can't supply ourselves out of this problem. We have to learn not to do with less, but to do more by using less input. The whole notion of, so the efficiency in terms of vehicle, the efficiency of how we do tasks, all of that efficiency, I think, becomes very important, particularly in transport and then in other segments as well. So my suggestion as I look at this topic and as I engage on this topic is to think about, breaking down the barrier between thinking of fuel as like traditionally how we've defined it, primary, secondary fuels, and you have demand and you have supply, and those are considered to be very separate parts. But I think what modern technology, what the imperatives of climate and the requirements of sustainability are doing is it's dismantling those definitions. Those definitions are less important. Today, you don't know what is supply versus demand, or you don't know what a consumer is versus what a producer is. You don't know who's running a system versus how distributed it is. And so in this very amalgamated, fast-moving environment in which you also have the human being who is more conscious of its environment and the impact that we are causing at a very individual level, I think is accelerating this transition. And so from a policy perspective, my recommendation is that we continue to look at a very, very holistic and also recognize the pace with which technology is changing things and how we begin to embrace sort of that. So let me stop there and thank you again very much, and all the other esteemed colleagues that are here in the audience. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share a few words today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vishal Thapa. And as your organization name is Saral Urja, you have communicated in with the great saralta. And let me share some of the points, sir, which you have already mentioned, that basically we really need to break the barriers, as Jyoti Kalash Saab has also said in his remarks, as well as SL Goyal Saab and Ambassador Manjeev Puri. I personally feel that we really need to change the mindset also. Like in Singapore, if a CEO of an organization can bicycle, and then not only he's earning points to have the ice creams, etc., but at the same time to energize that kind of fuel in himself. Especially Ambassador Puri must have also seen wherever his postings are there, especially in the European side of the country, of the globe, that people do bicycle to go for work. But I think in India, especially in the northern side, there is a mindset with bicycle. I'm not saying the government has given a dedicated corridor especially for cycle, but I think especially in the northern states there is a mindset. They basically connect bicycle with the I would say the status of that particular person. I have personally seen that kind of mindset is not there in the northern eastern states of the country. So I think, Mr. Thapa, you will agree, we really need to change the mindset, as Ambassador Puri also says, that there are small countries in Europe who are doing a lot of good work, especially to curb the pollution, etc. Don't you think that we really need to change the mindset, especially in the northern and central part of India, Mr. Thapa?
Sure, yeah, and you're absolutely right. And that's what I meant is like if you look at the evolution, people bicycle out of necessity maybe, and there's aspiration to move into, 2 or 4 vehicular traffic. And then if you look at the other spectrum, there's now sort of an aspiration to bicycle back to work, even though you may have a choice to drive just as easily. So what I'm saying is, if you look at it, it's highly circular. So as you're correctly saying, is we need to dismantle the notion or the perception that cycling to work or cycling to a place is really about a reference or an indication of a socioeconomic status. And that may not necessarily be the case. But also, I think there's a role for governments and civil societies and other organizations, particularly at the local level, to create environments and transport patterns and traffic patterns that make it easier to cycle. And also for companies who encourage that. Like, I would love to cycle to work in Delhi. I could just as well cycle to work in Delhi, but it's very hard on a hot day.
It's very hard.
And you're sweating and you don't know, which shirt you're going to find next. So companies can also encourage by creating the kind of infrastructure, just like a washroom or facilities where you can keep this. Nowadays, technology also enable us to move to multiple places without having to carry your laptop. Right, everything is interconnected. So cycling, as long as you move yourself. So I think all that infrastructure is there. We need to be, or as you said, the mindset needs to change, but also the supporting infrastructure will also enable much of this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Thapa. Ladies and gentlemen, we will certainly bother Ambassador Puri as well as the other speaker. I still have 3 more speakers, that how the mindset will be changed in this country, that we will speak with the Ambassador Puri, since he is connected with us. So with this note, I would like to invite a lady speaker, Miss Akansha Sharma, Head Social Impact and Sustainability, Sterlite Technologies Limited, to share her remarks briefly, and then we will have a interface on Q&A. Over to Miss Akansha Sharma, Head Social Impact and Sustainability, Sterlite Technologies Limited. Please unmute yourself, Akansha ji. You are not audible. Host, can you help Akansha Sharma ji? Aditya Tripathi.
It will have to be done.
Yeah. Please speak, Akansha ji. No, we can't hear you. Maybe some internal setting, or you are... Host, can you come and fix this problem? Aditya Tripathi, Atul Thakur.
Akansha, you'll have to connect your audio with the...
We can't hear her. So in the meantime, since she connects, can we go to the next speaker, and she will be able to then fix the problem with her laptop. We would like to invite Mr. Nikhil Moge, partner KPMG. If Nikhil ji, if you are there, so kindly share your remarks. In the meantime, Akansha ji would connect and fix the connection of her laptop.
Thank you, Dr. Srivastav. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are very much audible, sir.
Okay, so I'll not switch on my camera because I tried doing a couple of times and I was knocked off the
No
webinar.
problem. No problem. Please
I
go
would
ahead.
request the host if you could give me control to share my presentation. I have a presentation, or I have shared it with Atul also if he wants to just beam it up.
Okay. Atul K. Thakurji, if you are there, please share. Is it a PPT presentation, Nikhilji?
I think I've got the access.
Okay.
Thank you, Atul.
Yeah.
Great. Is it visible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. So thank you, Dr. Srivastav. And at the outset, would like to thank PhD CCI to give me this opportunity to speak on alternative fuels. This is a very, apt topic at the current moment. And this is like the third time in a row in this week, I'm speaking on something related to new and alternative fuels, which definitely shows that this is something that is gaining traction in India, not only because we are looking at new and alternative technologies, but also because that's the need that is being felt by all the stakeholders. What I'll do is I have my point of view on some of the technologies and fuels that are there. I'll talk about some of the global perspectives, what's happening worldwide, and some of the to-dos for us to move towards decarbonization of our economy. Like Mr. Goel said, that it's time for us to do something on ground rather than just talking. So just moving on, in terms of the road transportation, if we see, India is the fourth largest automobile market globally. And we overtook Germany a couple of years back, and that's where we stand. And if we see the share of the domestic market in terms of the segments of vehicles, two-wheelers dominate, and around 81% of the total vehicles are two-wheelers, and remaining are between the three-wheelers, commercial vehicles, and passenger vehicles. And that's where the overall mix lies. And if you see in terms of the passenger vehicles, it is largely dominated by small and mid-segment cars, which is potential market for CNG and EVs to that extent. EVs, I would still say that EVs are primarily the last leg or end of the transportation cycle, where we have seen a lot of e-rickshaws plying in Delhi and other parts of the world and country. But CNG definitely looking at the kind of network that is being developed is one of the key potential market for us when it comes to alternate fuel technologies apart from MS and HSD. Now, having said this, what lies for future? We are looking at 4 times growth by 2040. That's a huge number. We are looking at more higher growth than China, and that's where it's imperative for us as a country to look at alternate fuels, alternate technologies into our mobility. What is the current scenario? If you talk of the conventional fuels, it still dominates. Like I said, around 70% of the total transport is from diesel, around 99% is from petrol. In that sense, we have seen a lot of vehicles getting converted, especially in Delhi with the Supreme Court order. But now with the government of India push, we are looking at more and more vehicles getting converted on compressed natural gas. And government has set that its policies for helping the CGD companies to convert gas or convert vehicles on CNG by allocating the domestically produced gas to the CNG sector, and so on and so forth. So there has been a clear mandate, or I would say a clear direction from the government to move towards a greater adoption of cleaner and greener fuels. Also, in terms of EVs, if you see, it's still in nascent stages, but we are looking at several policies. The master plan talks about 6 to 7 millions of electric hybrid vehicles to be deployed in coming years, and the total capex outlay is of the order of 14,000 crores. So how would the future combination of alternate fuel technologies and vehicles look like, right? I'm not going to talk to the through the graph or through the picture here, but the message that I want to leave is that there would be several technologies, there would be several fuels that will coexist together. All that we need to see is how to increase the share of the alternate fuels within the system. And that's where, all the policies and all the detailed descriptions and elaborations that we have had till now will come in handy. If you look at the conventional transport, it is currently dominating, but bio CNG vehicles, hydrogen-based CNG vehicles are currently operating. Electric vehicles are already there. Hydrogen is a little away, but then, people are looking at hydrogen technologies for fueling the vehicles. Europe is going ahead. Japan is leading the way in terms of hydrogen fuels. So that way, we would see hydrogen fuels coming sooner than later. Also, in terms of LNG vehicles, we have seen some of the buses being deployed as pilot programs, but we are aware that there are some of the companies which are looking at having LNG vehicles, commercial vehicles into the commercial fleet for some of the large scale fleet operators, and that's the program that some of the stakeholders are working on. So essentially, we would see a coexistence between all the technologies and all the fuels, and that's where that would be a win-win situation for us as a country. Moving towards why we have to go ahead and have these technologies is because we have seen urbanization happening across. We have seen a lot of climate change and geopolitics that is getting impacted, that is impacting the business overall, leave apart only the transportation sector. And like Vishal talked of, technology and digital is going to lead the way in the way businesses are being done. There are several new technologies, several new apps, several innovative mechanisms that have come in, which are also utilized in the transportation segment, that will change the way mobility used to be looked at. And that's where, we have to look at how things would come in near future. In terms of renewables, don't want to spend, there's a lot of data, and as consultants we are fascinated by data, but the basic message here is that we are looking towards having high share of renewables going in future. Our installed capacity base is increasing, and that's where, if you're looking at green hydrogen, our renewables can support green hydrogen, and we are going in the right direction in that sense. If you look at the EV adoption, the FAME scheme by Government of India is one of the I would say successful schemes that have been deployed till now, wherein there have been a lot of impact on ground. If you see 5 states, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and Delhi put together, they have a huge number of vehicles that are being procured under the FAME scheme, and that's where we are seeing the difference on ground. In terms of hydrogen, although there's not much that has happened, but lately we have seen a lot of movement on the hydrogen side as well. 2006 is when the National Hydrogen Energy Board was established, but from that time till 2016, there was not much that has happened. But if you see between 2019 to 2020, there's a lot that has happened. It has gained traction, and we could see that there are a lot of changes and a lot of projects that have been announced by some of the companies that will have hydrogen as a fuel for transport. IGL as a company, I was on a on a panel with MD IGL, and he mentioned that IGL as a company is also looking at having 30 CNG stations in Delhi, which is like a huge number. So that's where now we are looking at the companies getting hydrogen into their energy portfolio, and more CNG and CGD companies are looking at having hydrogen into their fuel portfolio, and that's where we are currently. In terms of bioenergy and bio CNG, Mr. Tarun Kapoor talked about all the policies that the government of India has come up with. Honorable Minister has a vision of utilizing the bioenergy of the country, having doubling the farmers' income and so on and so forth. There are several such policies that have been announced. Satat National Biofuel Policy. There are policies for organic manure. There are policies for waste to energy programs. All these policies are yielding results on ground, although slowly, but yes, they are happening. We had a conference on CBG last week, and we had seen there are several LOI holders who have come in and said that while these policies are happening on ground, there are few challenges that we're facing, but MOPNG in that sense is helping them to overcome those challenges, and we could see CBG as one of the main drivers for the bioenergy program for the country. Moving towards the next, which is a no-brainer, which all of us know, CNG. I'll just skip this slide. This is primarily one of the most talked about fuel in the country. Delhi is one of the successful stories that we have seen. But the only message that I want to give here is that with the new city gas distribution, policy coming in, with new licenses being awarded, the infrastructure is in place. In conferences, we used to talk about infrastructure creation and so on and so forth, but the infrastructure creation for CNG is already there. And we could see a lot of adoption of CNG vehicles, a lot of conversion of CNG vehicles going in future. And by 2027-28, we expect that there would be more than 25 plus million CNG vehicles in the country, and that's where the entire shift of mobility will happen. In terms of global perspectives, battery manufacturing is something that is one of the critical aspects of the entire EV story. We are looking at a lot of investments on the battery side. There is a lot of innovation that is happening. The Teslas and Volkswagen and other OEMs of the world are looking at investing a lot. Volkswagen anyways is injecting around 60 billion US dollars, which is like a huge sum to build a supply chain for its EV portfolio. Similarly, other companies are also looking at, even in India, companies, oil marketing companies are also looking at having EV manufacturing facilities and diversifying into EV. So that is where the investments is happening on the manufacturing side. Hydrogen per se, if you see a lot of projects going on currently, Australia is leading the story on the hydrogen side. If you see, Toyota is working on several such projects in Australia. UK is again working on some of the hydrogen projects where they are looking at injecting hydrogen into the gas grids, something similar that India can do, India can learn. Apart from that, Japan is again looking at hydrogen into a big way. Japan has already started exporting hydrogen in form of ammonia, and that is where things are changing, and people are looking at exporting and importing and trade of hydrogen going in future. So that's where the entire hydrogen story is moving towards. In terms of bioenergy, like I said, UK is leading the bioenergy story. Germany is leading the bioenergy story in Europe. We are looking at around several plants that are being deployed in UK, and that is come on the back of several policy support that the government has made, and which is translated into hardcore capacity on ground. So if you see, after 2014, in 4 years, the hydrogen capacity has tripled in UK from 135 plants to around 429 plants in 2018. And that's where, having a policy, Mr. Goyal was mentioning about having a robust policy is quite essential to have real infrastructure on ground. And that's where what UK had did. Also, in terms of what's happening with the global oil and gas price, and this is interesting. We should look at that. the global players are now wanting, oil and gas players are now wanting themselves to be called as energy players rather than the oil and gas players. And that's where they are looking at new fuels, they are looking at connected customers, they are looking at renewable powers to fuel their new technologies. So if you see Shell, one of the few focus areas for Shell is hydrogen and biofuels, wind and solar combined with gas. And they're also looking at innovation on technologies on some of these aspects. Total is also looking at low carbon business. And Equinor is anyways, looking into a large portfolio of their offshore wind, which will fuel their entire energy basket. So that's how some of these companies are looking at alternate fuels and alternate technologies. In terms of way ahead for us, what we should do, on the infrastructure side, I would say we need to work on infrastructure to support conversion of private vehicles to alternate fuels. Now, some of this infrastructure on the CNG side is happening. On the CBG side, yet to happen, because there has to be certain policies, certain technical regulations that needs to come to inject CBG into the grid and so on and so forth. So there are some technicalities there. We also need to work towards high-end manufacturing capabilities to meet the emerging needs. And that's where Mr. Puri also mentioned that we need to have manufacturing capacity within.
Nikhilji, 2 more minutes because we are behind the schedule, please.
I'm just finishing. This is my last
Yes.
slide. In
Yeah.
terms of technology and costs, charging technology, like I said, is important. LNG infrastructure is important. R&D spend, Mr. Puri talked about R&D spend, and that's inevitable. If you have to do R&D spend to come up at those technologies. In terms of some of the other challenges, we have to have mandatory obligations for customers and clean fuel and environment and sustainability. You have to have, like Mr. Goel said, a robust regulatory framework and policies for operational guidelines to support and drive cleaner fuels. And lastly, we should ensure coordination among stakeholders of this industry, and that's where I believe PhD CCI is doing a great job, and that's where we would request PhD CCI to take lead and help the stakeholders work towards these alternative fuels. So with that, I'll end my talk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Nikhilji, for your wonderful presentation, though it is a bit detailed. And I wish if we could have more time to basically see, and since we have paucity of time, but we will certainly have more, sessions in future whereby we can have a detailed chat with you. So with this note, Akansha ji, are you there? If the problem is, yeah, great.
Yes,
so Akansha ji, you also have 5 more minutes to kindly share briefly so that we wrap up the entire thing by 2, since all the speakers are also really, we must have some question and answer. So all yours, Akansha ji.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, firstly, PhD Chambers, and thank you, all the speakers. It was definitely a very insightful session. So, I need not reiterate the fact that we have been discussing from last 2 hours almost that energy is really very critical, and people with no sustainable access to energy are deprived of the opportunity to become part of national and global progress. And since I represent the social impact sector from the industry front, it's my responsibility to bring the perspective of the SDGs here, which is more about, how can we make, SDG 7, which is all about clean access to cleaner energy, and making progress at individual, industry, and country level more growth oriented. So just sharing few data points on that how 1 billion people around the world live without access to energy, and more than 780 million people, which was reported in 2016 SDG report, which is 39% of the world's population, do not have access to clean fuels and technology for cooking. Now, when we talk about these things, it's also very important to see that what does the SDG goal number 7, which is, all about access to cleaner energy sources, comprise of. So where we talked about ensuring a universal access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy services, and double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency, which is a far-fetched dream of, many. Enhance international cooperation, which can happen with a very active participation from the industry and corporate sector. While saying that, there are also some hard facts that how, energy access is a massive economic opportunity in India. And some estimates put it close to about $48 billion a year by 2030. Despite that very glaring price, the sector is smaller and then its potential. In fact, I was, referring to some of the reports, and there is this India DRE clean energy report, which says that the sector deployed 3.6 million solar lanterns and 92,000 solar home systems. And there is a massive opportunity to grow at a rapidly with more supportive policy. And I definitely want to emphasize and pause here that, the closer partnership of the industry and the government with the supportive policy and the easy financing systems could really unlock this access to energy solutions in a much greater way. It was definitely a very positive signal that the World Bank and the UN has really loaned and giving a lot of emphasis to developing countries like ours to gear up and provide alternate energy solutions. Also from the industry perspective, that for manufacturing and for hazardous and heavy industry, alternative fuel systems are picking up very well, more on solar and hydro. And these institutional mechanisms need to come up with, I think, more financially subsidized schemes and policies, which become very encouraging for the industry to switch to it, which is definitely a policy gap in country like India. And while scale must start at home, and the opportunity for India is global when it comes to achieving SDG number 7, the government has taken definitely some encouraging steps. However, I feel, representing the industry, that we need to create more PPP modules. Say, for example, in industrial corridors, it's still the grid power at many places is much more cheaper than the alternative fuel power. So, which is a big policy gap that we can see at the national level. And from I represent Vedanta Group, and we are ourselves trying to see that how it can be broken, because it needs to be incentivized for the industry, and which can become more accessible to individuals and people in general. So, Dr. Srivastav, briefly, I really appreciated your guidance on time.
But you please be there, because there are a lot of question and answer sessions. So kindly be there, post your this thing. So are you through, Akansha ji?
Sure.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, though we have one more speaker, he will be joining later, so we have the time, so we can take some question and answer, sessions, and with the permission of both the additional chief secretary and also with the Ambassador Puri and all with our esteemed speaker. Sir, one question for both the resident commissioners. I must ask the resident commissioner of Maharashtra as well as of Resident Commissioner and Additional Chief Secretary of Nagaland. The question comes, does government of Maharashtra plans to give any benefit to the people who plan to buy electric vehicles? And the same question is for the Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner of Nagaland also. Goel sir, all yours first, and then I will request the Additional Chief Secretary, sir, of Nagaland to respond. Over to you, Goel sir. Sir, please unmute yourself, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, there is video is there?
Yes, sir. We can see and we can hear perfectly.
Okay, there is a policy for the electric vehicles which has been issued by government in February 2018. So under that policy, there are a lot of benefits which have been declared by government of Maharashtra. And if you go into that policy, there are a lot of benefits for the manufacturers, for the consumers, and in fact, I would welcome that if some suggestions can be given by the stakeholders, we can revise that policy because the time is changing. We must change our policies also. So this basically for buying a vehicle. I think your question was for buying, na?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a para on page 7 for battery electric vehicles. So there is 15% reduction in there is a subsidy for up to 5,000 rupees, and for three-wheelers it is 12,000 rupees. So there is a provision is there, and the latest I can get the policy again, but this is a 2 years old policy, but I'm sure this policy is still in force. And on the policy paper on the page 7, for buyers of the individual vehicles, there is a provision. This policy is valid for 5 years. I hope I'm clear.
Really need to disseminate such kind of information, sir, through the industry chamber. So I would be very happy, though we will be sending you the report and the recommendation post this webinar, but we would also be having such kind of informations from your end so that we can share with all our industry partners and the concerned stakeholders who else are on this.
Okay.
Can I have the same question for Jyoti Kalar Saab also, who is Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner of Nagaland? Sir, all yours, sir. Sir, kindly unmute yourself. Jyoti Kalar Saab, kindly unmute. Yeah. We can't hear you, sir. No, please unmute, sir. I think some issues there, sir, in the connection. Yeah, now. Sorry.
Request to remove the headphone.
Ajay sir, please remove the headphone. My host Aditya Tripathi is saying remove the headphone and then speak. Sir, please unmute yourself from the whatever camera or the laptop. No, you are still muted, sir. Yeah, now you are unmuted. No, फिर एक बार हो गया, आप दोबारा से करिए. Yeah, now you are unmute. Yeah, please speak.
You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, the government of Nagaland is in the process of formulating policy with regard to giving incentives to the buyers, the prospective buyers for the electric vehicles. What we are proposing that 5% of the cost of the electric vehicle will be borne by. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Please speak, sir. Please speak.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you, sir. Please speak.
Hello.
Sir, you are very much audible, sir. Please speak, sir.
I can't hear you. Hello.
Yeah, but you are audible. You can speak.
Hello.
Hello. This is at times this is the problem as we are having.
I'm not able to hear you.
Sir, you are very much audible, sir. Please speak.
Hello.
You are very much audible, sir. Please speak, sir.
I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, but we can hear you, sir.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, you can hear me all right here?
Yes, we can hear. We can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, Yogesh, kindly call him up and inform him that you can hear him.
Aditya Tripathi ji, can you just do the needful?
Tell somebody. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share it with you. In the meantime, Mr. Justin Lane, the business analyst, InnoBat Auto, he's also connected with us. And but Mr. Jyoti Kalash was responding to one of the questions, and Aditya Tripathi ji, can you tell him that we can't hear him because he's still muted, because he's connected through his mobile. So anyway, we can write to him later and then seek his answer. Okay, Aditya Tripathi ji, you can tell him that we will write to him these questions and then we can have his answer. Okay. So Aditya, can you hear me?
Yes, noted.
Yeah. So.
You are muted, sir. Dr. Yogesh. Yogesh, sir, you are muted.
Yeah. Now we can. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, clear.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Justin Lane, as I have given his introduction, he is connected with us, and very powerful name with the Canadian Premier. He shares the first name with him. He's there with us, and also from a very beautiful country, Slovak. The ambassador is a good friend of mine of Slovak Republic, who is based in Delhi. So, Mr. Justin, you have another 10 minutes to kindly share the global best practices and the perspective as far as this entire subject is concerned. Over to you, Mr. Justin.
Thank you. Is it possible that I can do a quick share screen here by any chance?
Yes, you can host. If you can kindly authorize Mr. Justin Lane to do the needful. Host, please authorize him.
Great. It looks like it's working here. There we go. So I have a presentation a bit brief, but in general, but I think it can be useful because it gives us a sort of a lens on how we're approaching this at InnoBat, and how we aim to try and make this this global issue of energy storage and transportation kind of come to a whole new level. And so, as the great introduction has already stated, my name is Justin. I've been a business analyst with InnoBat. We're here located in the beautiful but very rainy country of Slovakia today. And I'm quite happy to be able to present to you guys. It seems like a beautiful topic and a really interesting and important time. So at the moment, the way that we view this is that the world is inevitably and rapidly moving towards electromobility. Electric vehicles in terms of cars are obviously the one that most people are talking about, but the horizon for electrification really doesn't stop there. It really goes far beyond that. And while we are focusing mostly on electric vehicle and electrification from that angle of e-mobility with buses, cars, trucks, potentially motorcycles, looking to the future, trains, planes, everything that we are looking at is slowly becoming electrified. And what we want to do is we want to accelerate that electrification plan. We think that it's going too slowly. We don't have a lot of time. From our perspective, we see climate issues, but also economic issues being impacted by this transition to electrification. And we think that the more we can accelerate that, and the more that we can work closely with partners globally in order to make this dream a reality, the better that we all will be, not just from a standpoint of an industry, but as the standpoint of sort of a global community where this is tackling an interesting problem in an innovative way as far as the business case is concerned. The issue, of course, here is that this is not just a political challenge or an economic challenge. This is also a scientific challenge. And that's the interesting angle that Innobat really takes from this, is we understand what's going on as an issue of scientific importance, for which scientific innovations are required in order for us to move forward at the speed in which we would like. So one of the things that's been noted, and we have some clips here from some of our German neighbors, is that the lack of battery cell and the lack of chemistry and cell chemistry knowledge is really one of the key issues that's hindering the ability to adapt and move towards electrification. So what we've decided to do is create the first R&D to gigafactory company in the area. So within Europe, within Central and Eastern Europe, we are completely unique in this regard, that we can go from an idea to gigafactory scale output within a single work stream is what we're looking at. So the way that we do that, and this is a photograph of our new facility here in Slovakia that we've just built. And are currently working with our new partner MANS to facilitate here. The way that we want to do this is by centralizing ourselves in a key area. Now, naturally, Slovakia is a great place for that. We're the #1 auto producer per capita. And because electric vehicles is going to be the key aspect of electrification moving forward, it's nice to be in an area where we have the highest concentration of vehicle manufacturers and OEMs that really one could ask for. It's a huge aspect of our GDP. So we have a workforce that's ready to work on this problem, and we have people that are ready to go sort of from day one because of where we are. The way we want to do this, though, in this unique location that we find ourselves is first by advancing battery technology using our AI-based high throughput process. So we have a system that I'll show a little bit more about, where we can create safe and reliable cells quicker than anyone else in the world. We want to be able to do that because we can tailor cell chemistry to the specific application. What we need to do with a bus, of course, is very different than what we need to do for a passenger vehicle like a family car. And the automakers know that. Currently, the battery producers are coming with a catalog that says, here's what we offer, you can choose what's best. We flip that. We want them to tell us what they want, and then we go out and we use our AI-based high throughput platform in order to optimize it to their needs. So it becomes very specific, and we can save money in that R&D process because of the unique approach that we're taking. The sort of phase 1 that we have currently is building in through an R&D center, and then a 250 megawatt hour pilot line that then feeds into the phase 2, which is a 10 plus gigawatt hour factory that we're looking to realize here in Slovakia. The unique factors of this combination is that we can accelerate the cell chemistry in phase 1 using the pilot line in our R&D center in order to really pinpoint what needs to be built. And then once we know what needs to be built, we can scale it quickly to go to high volume EV battery cell manufacturing in our gigafactory facility. So utilizing this, it allows us to build out from a central location in the middle of Europe, where we can go through and activate the different value chains that exist. The largest known lithium deposit in Europe is in the Czech Republic, just about 500 or so kilometers away from us here, and a partner of ours is working there. And we have very close proximity to key customers being where we are in Europe. So in order to make this sort of greener world vision a reality based on this economic vision that we've created here, you can see that, we have a vested interest here. There's a picture of beautiful Slovakia, where, as you may tell from my accent, this is a new home for me. I actually am an immigrant to Slovakia pretty recently from the United States through England, lived in Singapore, and then now in Slovakia, where I've now settled with my family for the long term. So for me, this is very much interesting aspect of protecting my new home as well. So this is a very personal aspect of my involvement with the company. But in order for us to move and realize this, to keep Europe green and to keep the world green, we're looking to move very quickly from standard cells all the way to custom cells, and allow that to happen at scale, at production level volumes. Most people, in order to get there, they're outsourcing their R&D. They want a company to come in and deal with the R&D for them, customize the battery based on their specifications, and this can take years. And this usually does take years. And then they have to go to a separate production facility in order to actually get what they need for their lines, for the cars that they want to put the batteries in. By putting this together, we can come through and we can utilize variations on weight of the battery, electrolyte mix, stability, cathode and anode materials, and we can put that through our high throughput platform in order to optimize that. So this is really the key, right? Is we're really pushing this customization. The way that we do this that's different is we're utilizing a patented process here. Traditional research model is very much plan, synthesize, assemble, analyze, and repeat. We go to planning, and then as soon as we move from that planning stage, we've already started to parallelize everything. It's almost like if you use a high performance computing system, right? You take that problem and you multiply it out and you put it through as many channels as possible, as quickly as possible. So we synthesize in parallel, we assemble in parallel, and it allows us to analyze in parallel. So that lets us get to the results that are needed much quicker than you can in a traditional research model. It can even save some of our clients up to 90% in their R&D costs. So this takes that iterative development to a new level, because we can use these results to bring AI systems to bear in order to help us improve the speed, accuracy, and results even further. So this gets things moving very quickly and can allow us to get to a custom tailored cell faster than anybody else. We bring a really high level team to this. We have people such as Faisal Sohail, who's been in the battery entrepreneurship business for almost 3 decades and was one of the leads at A123 Systems, one of the most successful battery companies out there. Our CEO, a good friend of mine, Marian Bocek, who's worked in infratech, as he calls it, infratech space for nearly 2 decades. And that's the intersection between technology and infrastructure, right? So batteries and e-mobility is very much an infrastructure problem. Using AI to reach a new cell, unique cell chemistries is very much a tech problem, right? And so by combining the speed of technology with the scale of infrastructure, it becomes a very interesting opportunity. And he's been working with companies like this for decades. We've also brought in Jun Kim, who's a great battery expert. We work with Dee Strand at Wildcat. Wildcat is one of our partners in this business venture. She is one of the top battery experts in the world. We couldn't find somebody better to work with. We also have Will Gardner, who may or may not be behind our faces. Actually, I'm not sure if you can see those there. Will Gardner is a great battery expert based in Massachusetts in the United States. And then we also have Douglas McAndrew, the COO of the company, who's worked with the likes of Jaguar Land Rover, McLaren, Smith Technologies, Aeromobile. So he's even been involved in part of that transition to flying aerial vehicles as well. And I'm pleased to be able to announce here, actually, that we're also now working with Andy Palmer, who used to be the previous CEO at Aston Martin in the United Kingdom. He's now joined the Innovat team as well. So we're growing very quickly. We're getting top-level interest from all over the world to come and join our team and really expand this project into something much larger. So that's our quick overview. That's how we kind of see ourselves situated in this grand scheme here. One small part in a very large problem, but we hope to produce some pretty big solutions. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Justin. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. And as you are in a beautiful country, Slovakia, which always says Slovakia with a new idea. So from US to England to now in Slovak, and I think that is the next destination as far as I am personally concerned, because I have been to Czech Republic, Ukraine every year, but I have never been to Slovak. So that should be the next destination after seeing your beautiful home, in these lovely mountains. So thank you very much, Mr. Justin, and for your wonderful presentation. And we are sharp on time. Before I request my Secretary General to give the formal vote of thanks and concluding remarks, Mr. Secretary General, please give me at least 2 more minutes, because there is a very important question with Ambassador Puri. And Ambassador Puri, please answer in one-liner if you can, so that we can wrap up the things, on time. Ambassador Manjeev Puri ji, one of my journalist friend, she is asking, can you please enlighten us about the best practices in AFT, especially in European countries, and also in during your tenure in Nepal, if you can share with us. Ambassador Puri, are you there? I think Ambassador Manjeev Puri. He is very much there, but he's muted. Aditya, can you just call him up and then say if he's there? Else we can then send him a question. Or I can forward the same thing to dear Justin Lane. Justin, can you please give your thought on this? Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, could you restate the question?
Yes, the question is basically what are the best practices about the AFT, whether in India it should be replicated. You want to share some of the global best practices which is there in Europe as well as in the eastern side of Europe where you are there, which India can adopt?
Yeah, so when it comes to best practices, at the moment, I think in Europe, but also globally, and I think this is an interesting thing to keep in mind for the Indian context as well, is that innovation is key. The best practice right now is to always be innovating. The extent to which we can try and push towards greater public-private cooperation with universities, with private corporations, and with government sponsorship, I think the better that we all are. And international collaborations are something that is very important for us at Innovat in particular. We have a Czech partner. We're always looking to engage. We're currently engaging with people in Hungary, in Germany, in the United Kingdom, in the United States. So for us, this is a very big play. The other aspect of this is not just innovation, but variation. So at Innovat, of course, we really focus at Innovat Auto on the development of electric vehicle batteries. We also, though, are interested in stationary storage because this is not just a vehicle problem. This is also a grid level problem. So we're working to create, the lithium-ion batteries, which can be used for stationary storage, but we're also looking at the ability to utilize what are called iron flow battery technology, which are large batteries that we can store all the way up to 5 megawatt hours at a time. And then, of course, battery recycling. This is a closed loop process for us. So we really want to try and push it as a full loop here in Europe and globally.
Great, Mr. Justin. Now, Ambassador Puri is already connected with us. Ambassador Puri, just in few seconds, if you can kindly share your experience, because there is a question from one of the journalists that in Nepal, there has been a demand for giving EV a greater chance. Having served there as an India's ambassador, would you like to share your experiences, Ambassador Puri? Kindly unmute yourself. Kindly unmute.
Thank you. And I'm electric power. So we need Justin very strongly. Let me make one or 2 points to you because Vishal, who also comes from Nepal, made very good points about sustainable consumption. I think there is absolutely no doubt that we should move towards sustainability in our consumption and production patterns, lifestyle changes. But having said this, my own view for a country like India is that we need to work much more on what is called adaptation and technology. And this is the key because we really have to still uplift the largest number of people who are poor anywhere in the world. Let's be very clear. And our overall per capita consumption power is among the lowest in the world. That, this whole idea that we hear a lot of places about CNG, LNG and all. Look, we are somewhat behind the curve because in most parts of the world, people are going straight to electric mobility. And that's the buzzword which is going around. But I'm afraid we still have a lot to catch up to, so it goes on. We were talking about Nepal. Look, we must understand that electric vehicles are going to form a very important element of the fleet in Nepal. The reasons are the following. One is environmental sustainability, etc. And as Nepal becomes more conscious to the need for environmental sustainability, they will want to cut down on fossil fuels, greenhouse gas emissions, CO2, etc. Already, Kathmandu is one of the most polluted cities in Asia, and I say this knowingly sitting in Delhi. Second point I'd like to make to you is Nepal's great resource is hydropower. So when it produces electric power, is there any reason for Nepal not to harness it directly for people's consumption and instead wait for an entire natural cycle to import petroleum from all over the world via India and then harness the thing? No, technology has precluded this from happening, but I see this will be the way forward.
Yeah.
One of the problems in Nepal is that a large parts of the country are not plains. They are hilly areas, which would mean that electric traction vehicles would need
Yes.
and other elements, which today are still at a point where they need to be developed. You'll see more alternate fuels used if you roll out the availability of this alternate path. Therefore, if you want to do electric vehicles, you need to roll out electricity on the go, as they say. All the best.
Okay. Great, Ambassador Puri. Yeah, great, Ambassador Puri. Thank you very much, and we will certainly have one request you in future to share and then engage with you in the future interface, especially in this sector. And before I request our Secretary General to give his concluding remarks and vote of thanks, let me also share with you, Mr. Justin, Excellency, Mr. Zygmunt Bedtok. Zmund Bretok. He's the ambassador of Slovakia based over here in Delhi, a great friend of mine. And as I have said, that from PhD CCI, we always encourage under International Affairs Division to have meaningful members to go in different parts of country and then sign joint ventures and then engage and also promote industry. So as I have said, we will request our International Affairs Division to have Slovakia the next destination post-corona, and we will certainly have a meaningful dialogue over there with the industry people. So with this note now, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. Now I would request our Secretary General, Mr. Saurabh Sanyal, to give his concluding remarks and the formal vote of thanks for this technical session and also for the entire session since he was connected since morning. Over to you, Mr. Sanyal.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yogesh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shri Tarun Kapoor, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India, our chief guest. Shri Manoj Kumar Pingwa, Principal Secretary, Commerce and Industries, Government of Chhattisgarh. Mr. P. Arun Prasad, the Managing Director, CSIDC, Government of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Vivek Joshi, Executive Director, Natural Gas Society. Mr. E.S. Ranganathan, the Director, Marketing, GAIL India Limited. Ambassador and Excellency Shri Sanjeev Singh Puri, Senior Indian Diplomat and India's former Ambassador to Nepal, European Union, Belgium, Luxembourg and the United Nations. Shri Shyamlal Goyalji, Additional Chief Secretary and Resident Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra. Shri Jyoti Kalash Ji, Additional Chief Secretary and Principal Resident Commissioner, Government of Nagaland. Mr. Bishal Thapa, Managing Director, Saral Urja. Ms. Akanksha Sharma, the Head, Social Impact and Sustainability, Sterlite Technologies Limited. Mr. Nikhil Moghe, Partner, KPMG. Mr. Justice Lane, Business Analyst, Innobat Auto, and all esteemed participants. Our President, Shri Sanjay Agrawal ji from PhD CCI, and Mr. Shashank Rastogi, our Chairman from the Chhattisgarh Chapter, PhD CCI. My colleague, Dr. Yogesh Srivastava, my colleagues Atul Thakur and Aditya Tripathi and their team, entire team of PhD CCI. At the outset, on behalf of PhD Chamber and Commerce and Industries, PhD CCI, and on my own, I express my heartfelt thanks to each one of you for kindly considering to be the part of this very important initiative, which is also the need of the hour for our country. Being with us and inspiring the industry in a trying time like COVID-19. I would like to appreciate your valuable contribution while representing the government or industry in handling the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown. Also, I would like to thank the PhD CCI leadership for supporting this very important initiative through their insights. The deliberations put through alternative fuel technology for vehicles, Virtual Expo and Conclave 2020 hold special importance for all of us. We have to be better prepared for achieving the sustainable development. Against this backdrop, under the aegis of its State Development Council and Chhattisgarh State Chapter, and in association with the Government of Chhattisgarh, Industrial Development Corporation, Government of Chhattisgarh, PhD CCI has organized this timely and very important Virtual Expo and Conclave. I am sure all of you would have enjoyed listening to all the valuable and experts in the domain of the alternative fuel technology. I have personally learned a lot from each one of you, and I assure you that we will be making beautiful recommendations from the chambers and sending it to each one of you for your reckoning and thereafter submission to the Ministry of Environment Ministry of Environment and Renewable Energy, as also to the Ministry of Industries, to DPIIT, and all those stakeholders who matter in this huge radical change which is going to take place in our country in the next decade or so. It is a well-reckoned fact that the alternative fuel technology is all about ensuring a cleaner alternative for mobility. It broadly reflects on the commitment for sustainable development goal or global goals as mandated by the United Nations. India, as one of the world's fastest growing economies, has significant bearings with adoption of the sustainable mode of transportation and environmental protection. In the last few years, the government and industry, under the dynamic leadership of our Prime Minister, the Honorable Narendra Damodarji Modi, has taken this matter very seriously in a bid to curb the urban pollution and attain the sustainable mobility. The electric vehicle market, as was brought out by many speakers here, is anticipated to grow at a robust CAGR of 43.13% during the forecast period from up to 2030. India has the potential to become one of the largest electric vehicles markets in the world, with the government pushing for this segment in order to curb pollution. Surely, India has a chance to be a global leader in this segment. The kind of dynamic inventors, startups, and industry captains that we have, we are sure to achieve this goal within a very short time. I just mentioned that it is going to be taking a decade, but I am sure and quite sanguine that it might take even lesser a time, 50% lesser time, and we can become the global leaders in this, because the cost of electric vehicles has to be brought down. Then only we can serve the consumers, and then only we can achieve this SDG in a very massive way. Thanking you once again, each one of you, for having contributed to this magnificent webinar which took place under the aegis of the Chhattisgarh state government. And I'm quite sure and sanguine that we'll be taking more such initiatives in the same domain in the future, and we'll be requesting you all to join once again. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, and Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanyal. Thank you very much for your wonderful remarks. Let me share that under PhD CCI, State Development Council is committed to have this kind of subject, and we will ensure that with every state, we must have such kind of sessions. And as my colleague has just now reminded Mr. Aditya Tripathi that from 15 till 17, there is an exhibition going on. So we have put it, the website in the chat box. Kindly do visit that website, and people are connected through that website also. And we assure all the speakers over here, especially the speakers from the state governments of Nagaland and Maharashtra, that whatever the concerns are, PhD CCI is a national apex body. We will certainly be taking your concern and then sharing with the right set of stakeholders. So with this note, ladies and gentlemen, my special thanks to Aditya Tripathi and Atul Thakur, who have put a lot of efforts in this, along with my colleague Sumit Dubey and Sanjeev Kumar and Puneet Chowdhury. So these are the set of people, those who have put a lot of hard work in the secretariat under the dynamic leadership of Mr. Sanjeev Gupta and Shashank Rastogi, both the chairman in PhD CCI. So ladies and gentlemen, a very applause for them. And last but not the least, MD CSIDC, who have always been supporting PhD CCI initiatives. And I must say a big thank you to Mr. Arun Prasad ji, who have always been supporting the initiative of our Chhattisgarh chapter, and we are committed to work with him shoulder to shoulder, hand to hand. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Please stay yourself very healthy and fit, and take a lot of water. Stay healthy and happy. Thank you very much. Namaskar.